When Michael Jordan opened that mysterious letter with no return address, his hands started shaking. The handwriting looked so familiar. It was from Cassie, his first love from high school. They hadn't spoken in 25 years. The letter said, "Michael, I need to tell you something. Something I should have told you in 1979. It can't wait any longer. Please come home." Michael's heart pounded in his chest. What could she possibly need to tell him after all these years? What secret had she kept for 25 years? The next morning, Michael got on a plane to Wilmington, North Carolina. He drove to their special spot, an old oak tree by the river where they used to meet as teenagers. Cassie was waiting for him. She pulled out her phone and showed him a picture of a young man in a basketball uniform. Michael couldn't believe what he was seeing. The young man looked exactly like him. "Mike," Cassie said with tears in her eyes, "this is Marcus. He's 24 years old. He's your son." Michael felt like the world stopped spinning. A son? He had a son he never knew about for 24 years? But then Cassie said something that made Michael's blood turn cold. Something that would change everything. "Marcus is dying, Mike. He has cancer. And you're the only one who can save him." But that's not even the biggest secret Cassie was hiding. What she told him next left Michael completely frozen. He couldn't move. He couldn't speak. He couldn't even breathe. Want to know what Cassie's final secret was? The secret that would shock Michael Jordan more than anything else in his entire life? Watch this whole video to find out what happened next. Trust me, you won't believe where this story goes. Michael Jordan sat alone in his home office in Charlotte, surrounded by the golden glow of championship trophies that lined mahogany shelves. 6 NBA championship rings rested in a velvet case on his desk, catching the last rays of Tuesday's dying sunlight. Outside, rain tapped gently against the floor-to-ceiling windows, creating a rhythm that made him feel both peaceful and restless. At 60 years old, Michael had everything a man could want: money, fame, a legacy that would outlive him by generations. Yet tonight, as he reviewed contracts and business proposals, he felt the familiar hollowness that sometimes crept in when the world grew quiet. His assistant, Patricia, knocked softly before entering. "Mr. Jordan, I'm heading out for the evening. Here's today's mail." She placed a neat stack of envelopes on his desk. Bills, fan letters, business correspondence. "Thanks, Patricia. Have a good night." Michael barely looked up as she left, closing the heavy door behind her. He sorted through the mail with practiced efficiency. A letter from his accountant, 3 fan letters requesting autographs, an invitation to a charity event in Los Angeles. Then his hand stopped. The envelope was different. Simple white paper. Handwritten address. No return address. But the handwriting made his breath catch in his throat. He knew that handwriting. Those careful loops and curves had once written him love notes that he'd kept in his gym locker. Cassandra Bennett, Cassie, his first love. The girl who believed in him when he was just Mike, the skinny kid who got cut from his high school varsity team. He hadn't heard from her in 25 years, not since that heartbreaking letter in 1979 that ended everything between them. With trembling fingers, Michael opened the envelope. Inside was a single page, the same careful handwriting. "Michael, I never thought I'd reach out after all these years, but there's something I need to tell you. Something I should have told you in 1979. It can't wait any longer. Please come home. Cassie." That was it. No explanation, no phone number, just those 3 devastating sentences. Michael read the letter again. Then again. His heart pounded against his ribs like it used to before championship games. "Something I should have told you in 1979. What could she possibly mean?" He leaned back in his leather chair, closing his eyes as memories washed over him. Cassie's bright laugh echoing across the Wilmington River, her hand in his as they walked through Laney High School's hallways. Her tears the last time he saw her, though he never understood why she was crying. The letter she'd sent breaking things off, claiming she didn't want to hold him back from his dreams. 25 years. He'd thought about her over those years, wondered where she was, if she was happy, if she'd married someone who deserved her. But he'd never reached out. She'd asked him not to, and he'd respected her wishes. Now she was reaching out to him. "Please come home." The words pulled at something deep inside him. Home. Wilmington, North Carolina. The town where everything began. Where a boy with big dreams met a girl with kind eyes who believed those dreams could come true. Michael stood and walked to the window, watching rain streak down the glass. In the reflection, he could see his trophies and awards, the evidence of an extraordinary life. But he could also see something else. The ghost of that 15-year-old boy who'd cried behind the gym after being cut from the team. The boy Cassie had comforted. The boy who'd fallen in love for the first time under an old oak tree by the river. What could she need to tell him after all this time? Why now? The questions consumed him. Michael pulled out his phone and texted his assistant. "Clear my schedule for the next week. Something important has come up." Then he booked a flight to Wilmington for the next morning. Whatever Cassie needed to tell him, whatever secret she'd kept for 25 years, he would face it. He owed her that much. He owed himself that much. Tomorrow, Michael Jordan was going home. The memories hit Michael the moment his rental car crossed into Wilmington city limits. 25 years of carefully constructed walls crumbled as familiar streets appeared through the windshield. There was the old diner where he'd celebrated making junior varsity. There was the corner store where he'd bought Cassie flowers with money earned from mowing lawns. Everything looked smaller than he remembered, yet somehow more significant. Michael drove slowly, delaying the inevitable meeting with Cassie. He needed to understand why his heart was racing, why his palms were sweating like he was 17 again. He turned left, almost without thinking, and found himself pulling into the parking lot of Emsley A. Laney High School. The building had been renovated, new paint, updated signs, but the bones remained the same. Michael sat in his car, staring at the gym entrance and let himself remember. Fall 1978. 15-year-old Michael Jordan stood in front of the gymnasium bulletin board, his stomach dropping as he scanned the varsity basketball roster. His name wasn't there. He read it again, certain he'd missed it. Nothing. Coach Lynch had cut him. "Sorry, Jordan," his friend Leroy said, appearing beside him. Leroy's name was on the list. "Coach said you're too short. He wants you to grow another year on JV." Too short, too small, not good enough. Michael's throat tightened painfully. He'd worked all summer for this. He'd practiced every single day, perfecting his shot, building his speed. He was better than half the guys on that list, but none of that mattered. He was 5'10", and that was the only measurement Coach Lynch cared about. "Whatever," Michael muttered, shoving past Leroy. "JV's fine." But it wasn't fine. It was crushing. It was humiliating. It meant another year watching from the sidelines while others got the glory. Another year being invisible. Michael walked quickly through the school hallways, keeping his head down so nobody would see the tears burning in his eyes. He pushed through the back exit and circled around behind the gym, to the spot where nobody ever went. Only then did he let the tears fall. He slumped against the brick wall and cried, angry, frustrated tears that he hated himself for shedding. Winners didn't cry, champions didn't cry. But right now, he wasn't either of those things. He was just a kid who wasn't good enough. "Michael?" He looked up, quickly wiping his eyes. A girl stood a few feet away, holding her books against her chest. Cassandra Bennett. Everyone called her Cassie. She was a junior, older than him, which somehow made this moment even more embarrassing. She was also beautiful, with warm brown eyes and long dark hair that fell past her shoulders. "I'm fine," Michael said automatically, his voice rough. Cassie didn't leave. Instead, she set her books down and sat beside him on the concrete, not too close but close enough that he didn't feel quite so alone. "You didn't make varsity," she said. It wasn't a question. "How'd you know?" "I saw you reading the list." "I'm sorry, Michael. That's really unfair." He shrugged, trying to seem tough. "It's whatever. JV's fine." "You're lying." Cassie's voice was gentle but honest. "I've watched you play at the rec center. You're better than most of the guys who made varsity. Coach Lynch made a mistake." Michael looked at her in surprise. "You've watched me play?" A small smile touched Cassie's lips. My little brother plays there sometimes. I've seen you. You've got something special, Mike. They're making a mistake. Nobody had ever called him special before. Not like that. Not with such certainty. His parents encouraged him, sure, but this was different. Cassie barely knew him, yet she spoke like she could see his future clearly. What if I'm not good enough? The words escaped before he could stop them. What if Coach is right? Then you prove him wrong. Cassie met his eyes directly. You work harder than everyone else. You get better every single day. And next year, when you try out again, you make it impossible for them to ignore you. That easy, huh? Michael managed a small smile despite everything. I didn't say easy. I said possible. Cassie stood and offered him her hand. Come on. Sitting here feeling sorry for yourself won't change anything. Michael took her hand and let her pull him to his feet. Her hand was warm and soft, and he held it a moment longer than necessary before letting go. Thanks, Cassie. Anytime, Mike. She picked up her books. I mean it. Anytime you need someone to talk to or just someone to believe in you, I'm here. That was the moment everything changed. That was the moment Michael Jordan met the person who would become his anchor, his first love, his greatest what if. Present day. Michael blinked, coming back to himself in the rental car. His phone showed it was nearly noon. He'd been sitting here for 30 minutes, lost in memories. Cassie had been right that day behind the gym. He'd proven everyone wrong. He'd worked harder than anyone, grew 5 more inches, made varsity his junior year, and became a star. The rest, as they said, was history. But what happened to Cassie? What happened to them? Michael started the car and drove toward the Wilmington River, toward the old oak tree where everything had truly begun. Where first kisses happened and promises were made. Where Cassie had asked him to remember she loved him, no matter what. He needed to see that tree again before he saw her. He needed to remember who he'd been before fame and fortune changed everything. He needed to remember the boy Cassie had believed in when nobody else did. The boy who became Michael Jordan started right here, in this small North Carolina town, with a girl who saw greatness in him when all he could see was failure. Tomorrow's meeting with Cassie suddenly felt less like a reunion and more like returning to the beginning of his story. The part he'd almost forgotten. The part that might explain everything. The old oak tree still stood by the Wilmington River, its thick branches reaching toward the sky like welcoming arms. Michael parked his rental car on the gravel shoulder and stepped out into the warm North Carolina afternoon. The air smelled like pine and river water and memories. He walked slowly toward the tree, his expensive shoes crunching on fallen leaves. This spot hadn't changed much. The river still flowed peacefully, its surface catching sunlight like scattered diamonds. The oak tree's trunk was thicker now, weathered by 25 more years of seasons, but fundamentally the same. Michael placed his palm against the rough bark, feeling the solidity of it. How many times had he and Cassie met here? 50 times? 100? This tree had witnessed their entire love story, the beginning, the middle, and the painful end he still didn't understand. He circled around to the side, facing the river, and found what he was looking for. There, carved into the bark, worn but still visible, MJ plus CB. Michael traced the letters with his finger, remembering the day they'd carved them. October 1979, senior year. Everything was changing. Michael had made varsity as a junior and dominated the court. College scouts attended every game. Coach Dean Smith from the University of North Carolina had visited his house 3 times. Michael's future was bright and getting brighter every day. But through it all, Cassie remained his constant. While other things in his life shifted and grew complicated, she stayed simple and true. She came to every game, cheering louder than anyone. She helped him with homework when basketball consumed too much time. She listened when the pressure got too heavy. They'd been together for almost a year by then, a real couple, not just kids holding hands in hallways. Michael loved her in the fierce, certain way only first love allows. He loved her laugh, her kindness, the way she saw the world through an artist's eyes. She wanted to go to art school after graduation, maybe in New York or California. They'd talked about staying together despite the distance. That October evening was perfect, unseasonably warm, with a gentle breeze carrying the scent of autumn. They'd met at their tree after Michael's practice. Cassie wore his Letterman jacket, the one with his number stitched on the sleeve. She looked beautiful in it, swimming in its size, but she wore it proudly. "Look what I brought," she said, pulling a pocket knife from her bag with a mischievous grin. "Planning to mug me?" Michael teased. "Planning to make us permanent?" Cassie opened the knife and approached the tree. "We should carve our initials, like people do in movies." "That's cheesy," Michael said, but he was smiling. "Exactly. Sometimes cheesy is perfect." Cassie began carefully carving an M into the bark. "Besides, 50 years from now, when we're old and gray, we can bring our grandchildren here and show them where it all started." Michael's heart swelled. 50 years from now, grandchildren. Cassie talked about their future like it was certain, like nothing could ever pull them apart. He took the knife from her and added his J, then carved a plus sign. Cassie carved her initials beside his, CB. They stood back and admired their work. "Perfect," Cassie declared. "Now we're part of this tree forever." Michael pulled her close, wrapping his arms around her waist. "Forever sounds good to me." They kissed as the sun set over the river, painting the sky orange and pink. It was the kind of moment that felt eternal while it was happening, the kind you wanted to freeze and keep forever. But when they sat down beneath the tree, Michael noticed something different about Cassie. She was quieter than usual, more thoughtful. She kept pulling his jacket tighter around herself, like she was cold despite the warm evening. "You okay?" he asked, taking her hand. "Yeah, just thinking." Cassie stared at the river. "Mike, when you go to Chapel Hill next year..." "We'll make it work," Michael interrupted quickly. The topic made him nervous. Chapel Hill was only an hour away, but it felt like a different world. "I'll come back every weekend. We'll talk every night. 1 hour of distance isn't going to change anything." Cassie turned to face him, and Michael saw something in her eyes he couldn't quite read. Sadness mixed with love mixed with something else. Something that looked almost like fear. "Promise me something," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "Anything. Promise that no matter what happens, no matter what changes or how much time passes, you'll remember that I love you." Her grip on his hand tightened. "That I've always loved you. That everything I do is because I love you." It was a strange promise to ask for. They were just talking about college, about a temporary separation. Why did it feel like she was saying goodbye? "Cassie, what's wrong?" Michael asked, concern creeping into his voice. "Nothing's wrong. I just..." She struggled to find words. "Life is unpredictable, you know? Things happen that we don't expect. I just need you to know that I love you. Really, truly love you. Can you promise to remember that?" "I promise," Michael said, though confusion swirled in his chest. "But nothing's gonna happen. We're forever, Cassie. You and me. This tree, these initials, they're proof. We're permanent." Cassie smiled, but tears glistened in her eyes. She kissed him then, desperately, like she was trying to memorize the feeling. Her hands cupped his face, and she kissed him with an intensity that was both thrilling and frightening. When they finally pulled apart, Cassie whispered, "I love you, Michael Jordan. Don't ever forget that." "I love you too," he said. "Always." They sat under the tree until full darkness fell, holding each other, neither wanting to be the first to leave. When they finally walked back to their cars, Cassie held his hand so tightly it almost hurt. "See you tomorrow?" Michael asked. "See you tomorrow," Cassie agreed. But tomorrow never came. Not the way he expected. 2 weeks later, Cassie stopped coming to school. At first, Michael thought she was sick. He called her house repeatedly. Her mother answered each time, her voice strained. "She's not feeling well, Michael. She'll call you when she's better." But she never called. After a week of silence, Michael drove to her house. Her mother met him at the door, blocking his entry. "Mrs. Bennett, I need to see Cassie. Is she okay?" "She's fine, Michael. She just needs some time." "Time for what? What happened?" Mrs. Bennett's expression was pained but firm. Sometimes young people need to focus on their own paths. Cassie has things she needs to work through. Please respect her privacy. The door closed in his face. 3 days later, the letter arrived. Michael's hand shook as he read it. Mike, I love you too much to hold you back. You're going to do incredible things, I've always known it. You need to be free to become who you're meant to be. Please don't try to contact me. This is for the best. I'll always love you. Michael read it 20 times, searching for hidden meaning, for some clue about what had really happened. But there was nothing. Just goodbye wrapped in words about love and freedom. He tried calling. Her mother stopped answering. He drove by her house. Nobody came to the door. He asked mutual friends. They knew nothing or wouldn't say. Eventually, Michael gave up. He threw himself into basketball, using his heartbreak as fuel. He went to UNC, became a star, got drafted by the Bulls, won championships. Life moved forward because that's what life does. But he never forgot the girl who believed in him first. He never forgot the promise she'd made him give. Remember that I love you no matter what. Present day. Michael pulled his hand away from the carved initials and sat down beneath the tree, his back against the trunk just like he'd done so many times as a teenager. What had happened that October? What had made Cassie push him away so completely? Why, after 25 years of silence, was she finally ready to tell him? Something I should have told you in 1979. The words from her letter echoed in his mind. Michael closed his eyes and tried to imagine what secret could be important enough to confess after a quarter century. Had she been sick? Had her family forced them apart? Had she loved someone else? Whatever it was, he'd know soon enough. Cassie's letter said to come home. He was home. Tomorrow, they would meet. Tomorrow, he would finally understand why his first love had broken his heart. Michael sat under the oak tree as the afternoon stretched toward evening, waiting for answers that were 25 years overdue. The boy who'd carved those initials had been so certain of forever. The man sitting here now knew better. Nothing was certain. Nothing was permanent. Except maybe this tree. And the memory of a love that had shaped everything that came after. Michael woke before dawn in his hotel room, unable to sleep. Today was the day. After 25 years of silence, he would see Cassie again. His phone showed dozens of missed calls and texts, his assistant wondering where he was, his business partners concerned about canceled meetings, his children checking in. He ignored them all. At 7 o'clock, his phone buzzed with a new text from an unknown number. Meet me at our tree, 10 a.m. Thank you for coming. See, 3 hours. Michael showered, dressed in jeans and a simple polo shirt. Ate nothing because his stomach was twisted in knots. He drove through Wilmington's morning streets watching the town wake up. School buses rumbled past. Parents walked children to bus stops. Life continued its ordinary rhythm, unaware that Michael Jordan's world was about to change. He arrived at the river at 9:30, too anxious to wait any longer. The morning sun sparkled on the water. Birds sang in the trees. Everything felt surreal, like he'd stepped into a memory that was somehow also happening right now. At exactly 10 o'clock, a silver sedan pulled up behind his rental car. Michael's heart hammered against his ribs. The driver's door opened, and Cassie stepped out. 25 years had passed, but Michael would have recognized her anywhere. Her hair was shorter now, cut to her shoulders and touched with silver threads. She wore glasses that made her look sophisticated. Fine lines creased the corners of her eyes, smile lines, the kind that came from a lifetime of laughter. She'd filled out slightly the way people do as they age. But she was still beautiful. Still Cassie. She saw him and stopped, one hand pressed against her car for support. They stood 30 feet apart, the weight of 2.5 decades between them. Hi, Mike, Cassie said softly, her voice carrying across the distance. Hi, Cassie. His voice cracked on her name, betraying the emotion he was trying to control. They moved toward each other slowly, like magnets being pulled together despite everything. When they were close enough to touch, they stopped. Michael wanted to hug her but didn't know if he had the right. Cassie solved the problem by stepping forward and wrapping her arms around him. She felt different, older, softer, but also exactly the same. Michael hugged her back, breathing in her scent. She didn't smell like the strawberry shampoo she'd used as a teenager, but there was something fundamentally familiar about her that made his chest ache. "Thank you for coming," Cassie whispered against his shoulder. "I wasn't sure you would. Your letter said it couldn't wait any longer." Michael pulled back to look at her face. "Are you okay? Are you sick? Please tell me you're not dying." Tears filled Cassie's eyes. "I'm okay. I'm healthy. But there's something I need you to know. Something I've kept from you for 25 years. Her hands trembled as she reached into her jacket pocket and pulled out her phone. "I need to show you something. Someone, before I can explain." Michael's confusion deepened. "Someone?" Cassie's fingers shook as she scrolled through her phone. She found what she was looking for and turned the screen toward Michael. The photograph showed a young man, maybe 24 or 25 years old, wearing a basketball uniform. He was tall and lean, with powerful shoulders and long arms perfect for the sport. But it was his face that made Michael's breath stop. The young man had Michael's eyes, the exact same shape, the exact same intense gaze. He had Michael's smile, slightly crooked on one side. He had Michael's strong jawline and high cheekbones. Michael stared at the photo, his brain struggling to process what his eyes were seeing. This wasn't possible. This couldn't be real. "Mike," Cassie whispered, tears streaming down her face now. "This is Marcus. Marcus Bennett. He's 24 years old. He played basketball at UNC Wilmington." She paused, taking a shaking breath. "He's your son." The world tilted sideways. Michael's legs felt weak, like someone had cut the strings holding him upright. He grabbed onto the oak tree for support, his hand finding the carved initials, MJ plus CB, that suddenly meant something completely different than they had 5 minutes ago. "What?" The word came out as barely a whisper. "You have a son," Cassie said, her voice breaking. "We have a son. I got pregnant that fall of 1979, right before I stopped seeing you. I've raised him alone for 25 years. And Mike, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry I never told you." Michael couldn't speak, couldn't think. His mind was a blank white space where thoughts should be. A son. He had a son. For 25 years, there had been a person in the world who was half him, and he'd known nothing about it. Questions exploded in his brain all at once. Why didn't she tell him? Where was Marcus now? What kind of person was he? Did he know about Michael? Did he hate him for not being there? But before Michael could form any of these questions into words, Cassie spoke again, and what she said turned his blood to ice. "There's more, Mike. Marcus is sick. He was diagnosed with leukemia 2 years ago. He went through treatment and we thought he'd beaten it. But last month the cancer came back." Cassie's whole body was shaking now. "The doctors say he needs a bone marrow transplant. I'm not a match. My parents aren't matches. They're testing other family members, but the best chance, maybe the only real chance, is you." Michael stared at her, unable to process the avalanche of information. A son, cancer, dying, bone marrow. The words swirled in his head without connecting to meaning. "You're his father," Cassie continued, desperation creeping into her voice. "Your bone marrow might save his life. That's why I wrote to you. Not just because you deserve to know, though you did, you always did, but because Marcus needs you. He's running out of time, and you're the only one who can help him." Michael's hand slipped from the tree trunk. He stumbled backward, his mind reeling. This couldn't be happening. This was impossible. Yesterday, he'd been in Charlotte reviewing contracts. Now he was standing by a river being told he had a dying son he'd never met. "I need to sit down," he managed to say. Cassie guided him to the bench near the tree, the same bench where they'd sat together as teenagers. Michael collapsed onto it, his head in his hands. A son. 25 years. Cancer. The words kept repeating in his mind like a broken record. "Why didn't you tell me?" The question came out raw and angry. "Why did you keep this from me for 25 years?" Cassie sat beside him, close but not touching. "Because I was 17 and terrified. Because my father said if I told you, I'd ruin both our lives. because you had just signed with UNC and your future was so bright, and I thought if you knew about the baby, you'd give it all up. You'd stay in Wilmington, marry me, get a job at the shipyard like my father. I couldn't let you sacrifice your dreams for me. That wasn't your decision to make, Michael's voice rose, echoing across the empty riverbank. He's my son. I had a right to know. You're right, Cassie said, tears flowing freely. You're absolutely right. I was wrong. I've been wrong for 25 years, but Mike, I was a kid. I was scared. My father was threatening to throw me out. My mother was crying every day. The guidance counselor was talking about adoption. Everyone was telling me what to do, and I made a choice, the wrong choice, and I've lived with that guilt every single day since. Michael looked at her, saw the genuine anguish on her face, and felt his anger deflate slightly. She'd been 17, just a kid. He'd been 18, about to start his amazing life at UNC. If she'd told him about the baby, what would he have done? Would he have stayed? Would he have given up basketball? Would he have resented her and the child for taking away his dreams? He wanted to believe he would have done the right thing, but he honestly didn't know. 18-year-old Michael had been ambitious, driven, hungry for success. Maybe Cassie had been right to protect him from that choice. Does he know about me? Michael asked quietly. Yes. I told him when he was old enough to understand. I showed him pictures, told him stories about you. I never let him think you abandoned him. I made sure he knew you didn't know about him, that you would have been there if you'd known. Does he want to meet me? Cassie's face crumpled. That's the other thing I needed to tell you. That's what's really going to hurt. She took a shaking breath. Marcus doesn't want to meet you, Mike. He's angry. He feels like now that he's sick, now that he's useful, suddenly he's worth acknowledging. He thinks you'll only get tested out of guilt or obligation, not love. He doesn't want to be your charity case or your redemption story. The rejection hit Michael like a punch to the gut. His son, his own son, didn't want to meet him. After missing 25 years, after learning he had a child who was dying, that child didn't even want to see him. Michael stood abruptly, pacing along the riverbank. This was too much. All of it was too much. I want to see him, he said finally, turning back to Cassie. I don't care if he doesn't want to meet me. I want to see my son. Now, today. Take me to him. Cassie wiped her eyes and nodded. He's at New Hanover Regional Medical Center. He's receiving treatment. But Mike, you need to prepare yourself. He's very sick. He's lost a lot of weight. The chemotherapy has taken his hair. He doesn't look like that picture anymore. I don't care what he looks like, Michael said fiercely. He's my son. Take me to him, please. Cassie stood and walked toward her car. Follow me. But Mike, don't expect him to welcome you with open arms. He's built walls to protect himself. It's going to take time to break through them. Michael nodded, already heading toward his rental car. Time. That's what Cassie had stolen from him. 25 years of time with his son. Time to watch him grow up, teach him to play basketball, be his father. Now, Marcus was dying, and all that stolen time felt like an open wound. But Michael Jordan had never backed down from a challenge in his life. He'd been cut from his high school team and came back stronger. He'd lost championships and came back to win. He'd failed and kept coming back until he succeeded. This was no different. Marcus was his son, whether the young man wanted to acknowledge it or not. And Michael was going to save him, earn his trust, and become the father he should have been all along, even if it meant facing the hardest fight of his life. The drive to New Hanover Regional Medical Center took 15 minutes, but it felt like hours. Michael followed Cassie's silver sedan through Wilmington's streets, his hands gripping the steering wheel so tightly his knuckles turned white. His mind raced with 1,000 thoughts at once. He had a son named Marcus, 24 years old, a basketball player, dying of leukemia. Every time Michael tried to focus on one piece of information, another crashed into it. The facts wouldn't arrange themselves into anything that made sense. How could he have a son he'd never met? How could that son be sick, possibly dying, while Michael had spent years accumulating championships and wealth that suddenly felt meaningless? They pulled into the hospital parking lot. Michael found a spot near Cassie's car and sat for a moment, trying to steady his breathing. Through his windshield, he could see the hospital's main entrance, automatic doors that opened and closed as people came and went. Somewhere inside that building was his son. Cassie appeared at his window and tapped gently. Michael got out, and she immediately reached for his hand. Her touch was both comforting and devastating. "He's on the 4th floor, oncology wing," she said as they walked toward the entrance. "Room 417. Mike, I need to prepare you. He's going to be angry. He might say things that hurt. Please don't take it personally. He's scared and sick, and he's been angry at this situation for so long." "I can handle angry," Michael said, though his heart was pounding. "I've faced down entire arenas full of people who wanted me to fail. I can handle my own son." But as they rode the elevator to the 4th floor, doubt crept in. This wasn't a basketball game. This wasn't a business negotiation. This was his child. A child who had every right to hate him, even though Michael hadn't known he existed. The elevator doors opened onto a quiet hallway that smelled like antiseptic and fear. Nurses moved efficiently between rooms. Somewhere, a machine beeped steadily. Michael followed Cassie down the corridor, past room after room of sick people fighting their own battles. Room 417 had a small window in the door. Cassie stopped outside it, her hand on Michael's arm. "Last chance to wait," she said. "I could go in first, talk to him, prepare him." "No," Michael's voice was firm. "I've waited 25 years, I'm not waiting another minute." He looked through the small window before entering. The young man from the photograph lay in the hospital bed. But Cassie was right. He looked different. Painfully thin, his body seeming to disappear beneath the white hospital blankets. Bald from chemotherapy, his scalp reflecting the fluorescent lights. An IV line snaked into his left arm. Monitors beeped softly, tracking his vital signs. But despite everything, Michael could see himself in that face. The shape of the eyes, closed now in rest or exhaustion. The line of the jaw. The way his hands rested on the blanket, long fingers that looked built for palming a basketball. "My son," Michael thought, and the reality of it hit him like a freight train. "That's my son." He opened the door as quietly as possible. The young man's eyes opened immediately, alert despite his obvious exhaustion. Those eyes, Michael's eyes, focused on him with instant recognition and immediate hardness. "So you came," Marcus said. His voice was weak but edged with bitterness. "Mom said you would." Michael froze just inside the doorway, unsure what to say. Every word he'd rehearsed in the car suddenly seemed inadequate. Cassie slipped in behind him and moved to Marcus's bedside, taking his hand. "Marcus, baby, this is—" "I know who he is," Marcus interrupted. "The whole world knows who Michael Jordan is." He looked at Michael with cold assessment. "What I don't know is why my father is only showing up now that I'm dying. Convenient timing, don't you think?" The words hit Michael like physical blows. "Marcus, I didn't know—" "I know you didn't know," Marcus cut him off again. "Mom explained the whole story years ago. You didn't know about me. You went off and became a legend, won championships, made billions, had a whole other family, I get it. You had a life." His voice cracked slightly. "But you're here now because I'm sick, because I need something from you. That's not how I wanted this to happen." Michael moved closer to the bed, his hands shaking. "You're right. This isn't how it should have happened. I should have been there when you were born. I should have taught you to shoot free throws and cheered at your games and helped you with homework and scared away bullies." His voice broke. "I should have been your father for 24 years and I wasn't. I can never get that time back and I'm so sorry for that." "You're sorry," Marcus repeated flatly. "That's supposed to fix 24 years?" "No." Michael pulled a chair close to the bed and sat down, bringing himself to Marcus's eye level. "Nothing fixes 24 years. Nothing makes up for all the birthdays I missed, all the games I didn't see, all the moments when you needed a father and I wasn't there. But I'm here now. Not because you're sick, not because of guilt. I'm here because you're my son, and I love you." Marcus's hard expression cracked slightly. "You don't know me. How can you love me?" "Because I'm your father," Michael said simply. Because the moment I saw your picture, something in my chest broke open. Because sitting here looking at you, even sick, even angry, I see myself. I see parts of me that I didn't even know were missing until right now. He leaned forward. You don't have to love me back. You don't even have to like me. But I'm getting tested tomorrow to see if my bone marrow matches yours. And if it does, I'm giving it to you. Not out of obligation. Not for publicity or redemption. Because you're my son. And saving your life is the most important thing I'll ever do. Tears gathered in Marcus's eyes despite his obvious effort to stay tough. The doctors say even if they find a match, there's only a 60% chance the transplant works. I might die anyway. You could go through all of this just to watch me die. Then I'll be there when you die, Michael said, his own tears falling freely now. I won't let you go through that alone. But Marcus, I don't believe you're going to die. You've got my genes, and I'm too stubborn to quit. I think you are too. Marcus stared at the ceiling, tears rolling down his temples into his ears. His chest heaved with suppressed sobs. I used to fantasize about meeting you. When I was a kid, I'd imagine you showing up at one of my games. I'd hit the winning shot and you'd be there in the stands, proud of me. I'd imagine you teaching me moves, telling me stories about playing in the NBA. He looked at Michael with devastating honesty. I don't want to die finally having a father, only to lose everything. And I don't want you to have a son just to watch him die. Michael reached out slowly and took Marcus's hand. The young man's fingers were cold and thin, but they gripped back with surprising strength. Then let's make a different plan, Michael said. Let's plan on you surviving. Let's plan on me being the most annoying, overbearing father you've ever seen. Let's plan on years of arguments about basketball and me embarrassing you by showing up to everything and you rolling your eyes at my dad jokes. He squeezed Marcus's hand. Let's plan on life, not death. Deal? Marcus's lips trembled. A sob finally broke free, then another. 24 years of missing his father, of wondering, of building walls to protect himself from rejection, it all came pouring out. Michael stood and carefully, mindfully of the IV lines and monitors, pulled his son into his arms. Marcus clung to him, his thin frame shaking with sobs. I'm so scared, he whispered against Michael's shoulder. I'm so tired of being sick. I'm tired of fighting. I know, Michael said, holding his son as gently as he'd hold something infinitely precious. But you don't have to fight alone anymore. I'm here. I'm not going anywhere. Cassie stood in the corner, tears streaming down her face as she watched father and son meet for the first time. 25 years of separation, of secrets, of guilt and regret. It all converged in this moment. It didn't fix anything. It didn't erase the lost years. But it was a beginning. After a long moment, Marcus pulled back, wiping his eyes with embarrassment. Sorry, the medication makes me emotional. Don't apologize, Michael said. Ever. You're allowed to feel whatever you feel. Marcus managed a weak smile. Mom says you're the most competitive person who ever lived. She says you never accepted losing at anything. That's true, Michael admitted. Good. Marcus met his father's eyes with determination that reminded Michael of himself at that age. Because I don't plan on losing this fight, but I'm going to need help. You've got it, Michael promised. Whatever you need, I'm all in. A nurse entered to check Marcus's vitals, and the spell of the moment broke slightly. Michael stepped back to give her room to work, but he didn't leave. He stood against the wall, watching his son, memorizing every detail of his face. When the nurse left, Marcus looked at Michael with curiosity replacing some of the anger. Can I ask you something? Anything. Did you love my mom? Back then, I mean. Michael looked at Cassie, who stood quietly by the window. Yes, she was my first love, my best friend. The person who believed in me before I believed in myself. He paused. I loved her very much. Why didn't you fight for her? Marcus asked. When she broke up with you, why did you just let her go? The question cut deep because Michael had asked himself the same thing 1,000 times over the years. Because I was 18 and stupid. Because I thought I was respecting her wishes. Because I didn't understand that sometimes love means fighting even when someone pushes you away. He looked at Marcus directly. I failed her. I failed both of you. But I'm here now, and I'm not walking away again. Not from either of you. Marcus studied his father for a long moment, then nodded slowly. Okay. Okay. His eyes were growing heavy, exhaustion pulling at him. Will you come back tomorrow? I'll be here every day, Michael said. If that's okay with you. Yeah, Marcus murmured, his eyes closing. That's okay. Within minutes, Marcus was asleep, his breathing evening out into a gentle rhythm. Michael stood by his bedside, just watching him breathe. His son, his child. 24 years of life that Michael had completely missed. Cassie touched his arm gently. We should let him rest. There's a cafeteria downstairs. We should talk. Michael didn't want to leave, but he nodded. He bent down and carefully kissed Marcus's forehead, the first time he'd ever kissed his son. I'll be back, he whispered, even though Marcus couldn't hear him. As they left the room and walked toward the elevator, Michael felt like he was moving through a dream. Everything had changed in the span of a few hours. Yesterday, he'd been a successful businessman reviewing contracts. Today, he was a father to a dying son he'd just met. The elevator doors closed, and Michael finally allowed himself to break down. He leaned against the wall and sobbed. For lost time, for his sick son, for the weight of everything he'd just learned. Cassie stood beside him, her hand on his back, offering comfort the way she had 25 years ago when he'd been cut from the basketball team. She'd been there at his lowest point then. She was here at his lowest point now. When the elevator reached the ground floor, Michael wiped his eyes and straightened his shoulders. He had work to do, tests to take, a son to save. The hardest fight of his life was just beginning. But Michael Jordan had never backed down from a fight in his life, and he wasn't starting now. Michael and Cassie sat across from each other in the hospital cafeteria, 2 cups of untouched coffee growing cold between them. The cafeteria was nearly empty. Just a few exhausted-looking doctors grabbing quick meals and a maintenance worker mopping the floor in the corner. The fluorescent lights hummed overhead, harsh and unforgiving. Tell me everything, Michael said finally. I want to know everything about him. Every single thing I missed. Cassie wrapped her hands around her coffee cup, as if drawing warmth from it. Where do I start? The beginning, when he was born. A sad smile crossed Cassie's face. He was born on June 15, 2000. 7 pounds, 3 ounces. He came 3 weeks early, like he was too impatient to wait. She laughed softly. Even as a baby, he had your intensity. When he wanted something, he'd scream until he got it. My mother said he had your determination. Michael's throat tightened. What was his first word? Ball, Cassie said with a genuine laugh. Of course it was ball. My father had given him this little rubber basketball when he was 8 months old. Marcus carried it everywhere. His first word was ball, and his second word was more. He always wanted more playtime, more stories, more everything. When did he start playing basketball? As soon as he could walk, he was trying to throw that ball into anything that looked like a basket. Laundry baskets, trash cans, my cooking pots. Cassie's eyes grew distant with memory. When he was 5, I enrolled him in a youth league. The coach called me after the first practice and said, Mrs. Bennett, your son has something special. I wanted to tell him, of course he does. He's Michael Jordan's son. But I couldn't. Michael absorbed every word, building a picture in his mind of the child he'd never known. Did he ask about me, growing up? Constantly, Cassie said, especially after he figured out who you were. I told him his father was a basketball player named Michael, but I hadn't told him which Michael. When he was 7, he came home from school so excited. His friend had shown him a basketball card. Your basketball card. Marcus asked if that was his daddy. She paused, tears threatening. I couldn't lie to him. I told him yes. That Michael Jordan was his father. What did he say? He asked why you didn't want him. Cassie's voice broke. He asked what he'd done wrong. He was 7 years old, Mike, and he thought he'd done something to make his father not want him. I told him over and over that you didn't know about him, that you would have been there if you'd known. But kids don't always understand adult complications. Michael put his face in his hands. The weight of it was crushing. He thought I didn't want him. I tried to fix it, Cassie said quickly. I bought every poster, every highlight video, every magazine article about you. I made sure he knew you were a good man, a great man. We watched your games together. I told him stories about how kind you were, how you believed in working hard, how you never gave up. She reached across and touched Michael's arm. Marcus worships you, Mike. Even though he's angry, even though he's hurt, he worships you. His bedroom walls are covered with pictures of you. He wore number 23 in high school because of you. You said he played at UNC Wilmington. Cassie nodded. Full scholarship. He was good, Mike. Really good. Not NBA level like you, but good enough to start all 4 years. He was a shooting guard, averaged 18 points per game his senior year. The local papers called him Baby Jordan, though he hated that nickname. He wanted to make his own name, not ride on yours. I would have loved to see him play, Michael said quietly. I have videos, hundreds of videos. Every game I could record. Cassie pulled out her phone. I can show you some, if you want. Yes, please. Cassie scrolled through her phone and found a video. She turned the screen toward Michael. The video showed a basketball court, a college game in progress. Number 23 drove toward the basket, his movements fluid and powerful. He jumped, hung in the air for an impossible moment, and released a perfect fadeaway jumper. The ball swished through the net. Michael's breath caught. The move was his move, the exact fadeaway he'd perfected over years of practice. Marcus had somehow learned it without Michael ever teaching him. He taught himself that, Cassie said, reading Michael's expression. He watched your old games frame by frame, studying your technique. He'd spend hours in the driveway practicing. Michael watched video after video, Marcus hitting three-pointers, making defensive steals, celebrating with teammates. In every clip, Michael saw pieces of himself. The way Marcus moved, the competitive fire in his eyes, even the way he argued with referees. This was his son, his child. A person who existed because of him and had grown up without him. When did he get sick? Michael asked finally. Cassie's face darkened. 2 years ago. He'd just graduated college and was working as an assistant coach at a local high school. He started getting tired all the time, bruising easily. We thought maybe he was anemic or had mono. Then he started getting nosebleeds that wouldn't stop. She took a shaking breath. The diagnosis was acute myeloid leukemia. The doctors said we'd caught it relatively early. He went through 6 months of intensive chemotherapy. It was hell, Mike. Watching your child go through that, it's the worst thing in the world. But he went into remission. Yes, for about 18 months. He seemed okay. He went back to coaching. He started dating a nice girl named Ashley. He talked about the future again. Cassie's voice dropped to a whisper. Then last month he collapsed during basketball practice. The cancer had come back, more aggressive than before. The doctor said his only real chance is a bone marrow transplant from a close genetic match. And you're not a match? No, I was tested immediately. So were my parents. None of us matched well enough. They've put him on the national registry, but the odds of finding an unrelated donor who's a perfect match are really low. You're his best chance, Mike. Maybe his only chance. Michael stood abruptly. Where do I get tested? Right now, today. The oncology floor has a testing center. I can take you there. Cassie stood too, relief flooding her face. Thank you, Mike. Thank you for not running away from this. Running away? Michael looked at her incredulously. Cassie, he's my son. I'm not running anywhere. I'm going to save him, and then I'm going to spend the rest of my life making up for lost time. They took the elevator back to the 4th floor. Cassie led Michael to a small medical office where a technician in pale blue scrubs greeted them warmly. You must be Mr. Jordan, she said. Dr. Reeves told us to expect you. We just need to draw some blood for HLA typing. It's a simple process. Michael rolled up his sleeve without hesitation. How long until we know if I'm a match? The lab typically takes about a week for results, the technician explained as she prepared the needle. But given the urgent nature of Marcus's case, Dr. Reeves has put a rush on it. You should have preliminary results in 3 to 4 days. I'll pay whatever it takes to rush it faster, Michael said immediately. Money is no object. The technician smiled sympathetically. Even with unlimited resources, the science takes time. The lab needs to analyze 10 different genetic markers to determine compatibility. Rushing too much could compromise accuracy, and we need these results to be absolutely correct. Michael nodded reluctantly. 3 to 4 days, then. The needle slid into his vein easily. Michael watched his blood flow into the small vials, blood that might save his son's life. It seemed impossible that something so simple could be so important. "All done," the technician said, pressing a cotton ball to the puncture site. "Keep pressure on this for a few minutes. Dr. Reeves will call you as soon as we have results." "I'm not leaving Wilmington," Michael said. "I'll be here every day until we know." After the blood draw, Michael and Cassie returned to Marcus's room. The young man was awake, staring at the television without really watching it. His face brightened slightly when he saw them. "Hey," Marcus said. "I thought maybe you'd left." "Not a chance," Michael said, pulling the chair close to the bed again. "I just got tested. They took my blood. We'll know in a few days if I'm a match." Marcus's expression was complicated. Hope mixed with fear, mixed with something that looked like guilt. "What if you're not a match?" "Then we'll find another option," Michael said firmly. "But I have a feeling I'm going to match. We're too alike for me not to." A small smile tugged at Marcus's lips. "Mom says you're the most confident person she's ever met." "Confidence is important," Michael said. "But you know what's more important? Showing up. Being there when it matters. I wasn't there for 24 years, Marcus, but I'm here now. And I'm not going anywhere." They sat in comfortable silence for a moment. The only sound the steady beep of the heart monitor. Then Marcus spoke quietly. "Tell me about winning your first championship. Mom's told me the story, but I want to hear it from you." Michael's face lit up. This he could do. This was a language they both spoke. For the next hour, he told Marcus about the 1991 finals against the Lakers, about the pressure and the doubt, and the moment when everything finally came together. Marcus listened with rapt attention, occasionally asking questions that showed he understood basketball at a deep level. Other stories followed. Michael talked about his failures, getting cut from the high school team, losing in the playoffs, the times he wanted to quit. He talked about perseverance and hard work and refusing to accept defeat. "That's what you need to do now," Michael said. "You need to treat this cancer like a championship series. It might knock you down. It might seem unbeatable, but you keep fighting. You keep showing up. You never, ever quit." Marcus nodded, his eyes fierce despite his exhaustion. "I'm not a quitter." "I know you're not," Michael said. "You're my son." As evening approached, a nurse came to give Marcus his medication. Michael watched as the clear liquid dripped through the IV line into his son's arm, poison designed to kill cancer cells, but also making Marcus desperately sick. "You should go get some rest," Marcus said, his eyelids growing heavy. "You've had a long day." "So have you," Michael countered. "I'll stay a while longer if that's okay." "Yeah," Marcus murmured. "That's okay." Michael sat in the chair as his son drifted to sleep, watching the steady rise and fall of his chest. 24 years. 24 years. Of moments just like this that Michael had missed. Birthday parties and school plays and basketball games and quiet evenings. All of it gone. Impossible to reclaim. But there was still time. If Michael's bone marrow matched, if the transplant worked, if Marcus survived, there would be time. Time to build a relationship. Time to be a father. Time to make new memories that might somehow ease the pain of all the lost ones. Cassie dozed in another chair, exhausted by the emotional weight of the day. Michael looked at her. This woman who had carried such an enormous burden alone for so long. He'd been angry earlier, and part of him was still angry. She'd stolen 24 years from him, stolen his son's childhood. But looking at her now, seeing the exhaustion carved into her face, seeing the way she'd positioned her chair so she could reach Marcus if he needed her, Michael understood something. Cassie had sacrificed everything for their son. Her art school dreams, her youth, her chance at a normal life. She'd raised Marcus alone, worked multiple jobs, dealt with the judgment and the struggle and the fear. She'd done what she thought was right, even if it was wrong. She'd protected Michael's dreams at the cost of her own. That didn't make her choice correct, but it made it understandable. "Thank you," Michael whispered, though Cassie couldn't hear him. "Thank you for raising him. Thank you for making him into someone I can be proud of. Thank you for finally telling me." As the hospital room grew darker, lit only by the glow of monitors and the dim hallway lights, Michael made a silent promise to his sleeping son. "I'm here now. I'm going to save you. And then I'm going to spend the rest of my life being the father you deserved from the beginning." 3 to 4 days until they knew if Michael's bone marrow would match. 3 to 4 days of waiting, hoping, praying. Michael Jordan had faced elimination games, last-second shots, championship pressure. But nothing had ever mattered as much as this. His son's life hung in the balance, and all Michael could do was wait. Michael checked into a small bed and breakfast, 2 blocks from the hospital. He couldn't stay in a hotel. Too many people would recognize him, ask questions, want autographs. He needed anonymity right now. He needed to be just Mike, not Michael Jordan the icon. The room was simple and clean, with pale blue walls and white linen curtains. Michael dropped his bag on the floor and sat on the edge of the bed, staring at his phone. 17 missed calls, 32 text messages. His business partners were panicking. His assistant was confused. His children, his other children, were worried. He needed to tell them. They deserved to know they had a brother. Michael called his oldest son first. Jeffrey answered on the second ring. "Dad, where are you? Patricia said you canceled everything and disappeared." "I'm in Wilmington, North Carolina," Michael said. "Jeff, I need to tell you something important, something that's going to sound impossible." "Are you okay? Are you sick?" "I'm fine. But Jeff, I just found out I have another son, a son I didn't know about. He's 24 years old and he's dying of leukemia." Silence on the other end. Then, "What?" Michael explained everything. Cassie, the pregnancy she'd hidden, Marcus, the cancer. Jeffrey listened without interrupting, processing information that Michael himself still couldn't quite believe. "So I have a brother," Jeffrey said finally. "A brother who's dying." "If my bone marrow matches, he has a good chance," Michael said. "But yes, you have a brother. His name is Marcus Bennett. He played basketball at UNC Wilmington. Michael's voice caught. "He's a good kid, Jeff. You'd like him." "When can I meet him?" "Soon. Let me get through the next few days first. Let me figure out if I'm a match. Then I'll bring everyone down to meet him." Michael paused. "I need you to tell your sisters and brother. I don't have the energy to make this call 4 more times tonight." "I'll tell them," Jeffrey promised. "Dad, are you okay? This is a lot." "I don't know if I'm okay," Michael admitted. "I have a son who's dying, Jeff. A son I should have known about 24 years ago. I missed his entire life. Every birthday, every milestone, every moment. And now I might lose him before I really get to know him." "You're going to save him," Jeffrey said with certainty. "You're Michael Jordan. You don't lose." Michael wished he had his son's confidence. "I'll call you tomorrow. Tell everyone I love them." After hanging up, Michael texted his assistant with brief instructions. Continue canceling everything. Tell no one where he was. Handle the press if they started asking questions. Then he turned off his phone and lay back on the bed, staring at the ceiling. Day 1 morning came too early. Michael was at the hospital by 7, carrying coffee and breakfast sandwiches he'd picked up at a local shop. Marcus was awake, looking slightly better than yesterday. The morning light through the window made him seem less ghostly, more alive. "You came back," Marcus said, surprise evident in his voice. "I told you I would." Michael handed him a sandwich. "Can you eat?" "Not really. The medication kills my appetite." "But I'll try." They ate together in companionable silence. Michael asked questions about Marcus's coaching, his girlfriend Ashley, his favorite movies. Marcus answered hesitantly at first, then with growing comfort. They discovered they both loved the same action films, both hated mushrooms, both thought pineapple on pizza was an abomination. "Mom loves pineapple pizza," Marcus said, making a disgusted face. "I've been telling her for years that it's wrong. It's deeply wrong, Michael agreed. That's a genetic trait you definitely got from me. Marcus laughed. The first real laugh Michael had heard from him. The sound filled something in Michael's chest he hadn't known was empty. Dr. Patricia Reeves stopped by during rounds. She was a woman in her 50s with kind eyes and gray hair pulled back in a practical bun. She examined Marcus carefully, checking his vitals and asking questions about his pain levels. "How are you feeling today, Marcus?" she asked. "Tired, but okay." Dr. Reeves made notes on her tablet. "Your white blood cell count is still too low. We need to keep you in isolation to prevent infection." She glanced at Michael. "Mr. Jordan, I understand you were tested yesterday for bone marrow compatibility." "Yes. They said 3 to 4 days for results." "I've put a priority rush on the lab work," Dr. Reeves said. "We should have preliminary results by Thursday morning. In the meantime, Marcus, we're going to continue with your current treatment protocol and hope it buys us enough time." After the doctor left, Marcus turned to Michael. "What if you're not a match? What happens then?" "Then we find another option," Michael said firmly. "But stop thinking negative thoughts. We're going to be positive. We're going to believe this is going to work." "That's very Michael Jordan of you," Marcus said with a slight smile. "What do you mean?" "Mom says you never accepted the possibility of failure. She says you believed so hard in winning that you made it happen through sheer force of will." Michael considered that. Confidence matters. But you know what matters more? Preparation. I didn't win championships just by believing I would. I won them by working harder than everyone else, by preparing for every possibility, by refusing to quit when things got tough. "I'm tired of being tough," Marcus admitted quietly. "I'm tired of fighting this." Michael moved his chair closer. "I know, but you don't have to fight alone anymore. I'm here. Your mom is here, and soon, you're going to meet your brothers and sisters, my other kids. You've got a whole family ready to fight with you." Tears gathered in Marcus's eyes. "I always wanted siblings." "Well, you're getting 4 of them. Jeffrey, Marcus, yes, you have a brother with the same name, Jasmine, and the twins, Victoria and Isabel. They're all excited to meet you." "What if they hate me? What if they're mad that I exist?" "They won't hate you," Michael assured him. "They're good kids. They understand that family is complicated sometimes. You're their brother, Marcus. They're going to love you." The day passed slowly. Michael left only when Marcus needed rest or medical procedures. He ate lunch in the cafeteria with Cassie, who seemed relieved that Michael was staying, grateful that he hadn't run from this overwhelming situation. "Thank you for being here," she said. "I was afraid you'd get tested and then leave. Let us handle everything while you went back to your regular life." "This is my regular life now," Michael said, "at least until Marcus is healthy. Then we'll figure out what normal looks like." Day 2. Michael established a routine. Morning coffee with Marcus, breakfast together. Then, Michael would work from his laptop in the hospital room while Marcus watched television or slept. Afternoon visits from doctors and nurses. Dinner in the cafeteria with Cassie. Evening conversations with Marcus about basketball, life, dreams. They talked about Marcus's girlfriend Ashley, who'd been scared away by the cancer diagnosis. "She couldn't handle it," Marcus explained. "I don't blame her. We're young. She didn't sign up for this." "Still hurts, though," Michael said. "Yeah, it does." Michael told Marcus about his own divorces, his failures in relationships, his regrets. "I was so focused on basketball and business that I sometimes forgot to focus on the people who mattered. I'm trying to be better about that now." "Is that why you're here?" Marcus asked. "Trying to be better?" "I'm here because you're my son," Michael said simply. "That's the only reason I need." That evening, Michael's phone buzzed with a text from Jeffrey. "The family wants to come down. Can we visit this weekend?" Michael showed the text to Marcus. "What do you think? Ready to meet everyone?" Marcus looked terrified and hopeful at the same time. "What if they don't like me?" "Not possible," Michael said. "You're their brother." "That's all that matters." Marcus nodded slowly. "Okay, yeah. I'd like to meet them." Michael texted back. "Come Sunday, I'll arrange everything." Day 3. Wednesday morning arrived with no news from the lab. Michael tried not to show his anxiety, but Marcus picked up on it immediately. "You're worried," Marcus observed. "Just impatient," Michael said. "I don't do waiting well." "Me neither. Guess that's another genetic trait." They were watching an old Bulls game on Michael's laptop when Dr. Reeves entered, her expression serious. Michael's heart dropped. "Is something wrong?" he asked immediately. "I need to speak with both of you," Dr. Reeves said, sitting down. "The preliminary HLA typing results came back this morning." Michael reached for Marcus's hand instinctively. Marcus gripped back, his palms sweaty with fear. "Michael, you're a perfect 10 out of 10 match," Dr. Reeves said. "This is excellent news. It significantly improves Marcus's chances of a successful transplant." The room seemed to explode with relief. Marcus started crying. Cassie, who just walked in, collapsed into a chair, sobbing. Michael felt tears streaming down his own face as he pulled Marcus into a careful hug. "I told you," Michael whispered. "I told you we were too alike for me not to match." "You're really going to save me?" Marcus said in wonder. "Damn right I am." Dr. Reeves smiled at the emotional scene, then held up her hand. "There's something else you need to know before we proceed. Something the blood work discovered." Michael's relief turned to concern. "What is it?" "Michael, during the comprehensive health screening we run on all potential donors, we found an irregularity in your heart rhythm. You have atrial fibrillation, an irregular heartbeat that you were apparently unaware of." "Is that serious?" Marcus asked, fear creeping back into his voice. "It's treatable and manageable," Dr. Reeves explained. "But it does create risk factors for the bone marrow donation procedure. The extraction requires general anesthesia, and with your heart condition, Michael, there are increased risks of complications including stroke or cardiac arrest." The room went silent. Michael's mind raced, processing this new information. "What are the odds?" "About 5% chance of serious complications. 1% chance of something fatal." "No," Marcus said immediately. "Absolutely not. We'll find another donor." "I'm your best match," Michael said. "We don't have time to find and test another donor. Your cancer is aggressive, Marcus. Every day counts." "I won't let you risk your life for me," Marcus said, his voice rising despite his weakness. "I just met you. I can't be the reason I lose you. No. Find someone else?" "There is no one else." Michael's voice was sharp with frustration. "I'm doing this, Marcus. End of discussion." "You have other children," Marcus argued, tears streaming. "Jeffrey, Jasmine, the others. They need you. You can't risk your life for a son you just met." Michael moved close to Marcus's bed, gripping the rails so tightly his knuckles turned white. "Listen to me. I've lived 60 years. I've accomplished everything I set out to accomplish and more. I've won championships, built businesses, lived a life beyond my wildest dreams." His voice softened. "But the greatest thing I've ever been part of is you. You're my son, you're my blood, and I will not stand by and watch you die when I have the power to save you. 5% risk? 1%? I take a 90% risk. I take any risk. Because you're worth it." Marcus sobbed openly now. "What if something goes wrong? What if you die trying to save me?" "Then I die doing the most important thing I've ever done," Michael said simply. "But I'm not going to die. I'm too stubborn. And so are you. We're both going to make it through this, and then we're going to have years together. Years to make up for lost time." Dr. Reeves intervened gently. "You both need time to think about this. The procedure isn't scheduled yet. Take a day to discuss it with your families. Consider all the options." "There's nothing to discuss," Michael said. "When can we schedule the donation?" "Next week. We need to run a few more cardiac tests on you first. Make sure you're as healthy as possible going into the procedure." After Dr. Reeves left, Michael sat with Marcus, who was still crying silently. "I'm scared," Marcus whispered. "Me too," Michael admitted. "But being scared doesn't mean we don't do it. It means we do it anyway." Marcus looked at his father, really looked at him, and seemed to see something that convinced him. "Okay, if you're sure. I've never been more sure of anything in my life." That evening, Michael called his children and told them about the heart condition, about the risks. They were all scared, all begged him to reconsider, but they also understood. This was who their father was, someone who never backed down from a challenge, especially when lives were on the line. As Michael lay in bed that night, unable to sleep, he thought about the journey that had led him here. A letter from Cassie, a son he didn't know existed, a cancer diagnosis, a perfect bone marrow match complicated by a heart condition. Life was strange and unpredictable and sometimes impossibly hard, but it was also full of second chances, unexpected miracles, and the opportunity to be the person you were meant to be. Michael Jordan had been many things in his 60 years: a basketball legend, a businessman, a celebrity, a father. But next week, he would be something even more important. He would be a lifesaver. And no championship, no achievement, no accomplishment in his entire life would ever mean as much as that. Sunday arrived with Carolina's sunshine pouring through hospital windows. Michael stood in the parking lot, watching a black SUV pull into the visitors section. His heart pounded with anticipation and nervousness. Inside that vehicle were his other children, 4 people about to meet the brother they'd never known existed. Jeffrey emerged first, followed by his namesake Marcus Jr., then Jasmine, and finally the twins, Victoria and Isabel. They stood together in an uncertain cluster, looking up at the hospital building with obvious apprehension. Michael walked over and hugged each of them. "Thank you for coming." "Of course we came," Jasmine said. "We want to meet our brother." They walked into the hospital together, a small parade of Jordans. Michael could feel the tension radiating from his children. This wasn't a normal family reunion. This was meeting a dying brother who was a complete stranger. Outside Marcus's room, Michael stopped them. "Before we go in, I need you to understand something. He's very sick. He's lost a lot of weight. He doesn't look like the pictures I showed you. But underneath the illness, he's still your brother. He's still family." They nodded solemnly. Michael pushed open the door. Marcus was sitting up in bed, wearing a clean shirt that Cassie had brought from home. He'd tried to make himself presentable, but the effort had clearly exhausted him. His eyes widened as the group entered. So many new faces all at once. "Marcus," Michael said gently, "these are your brothers and sisters. This is Jeffrey, Marcus. We call him MJ to avoid confusion. Jasmine, Victoria, and Isabel." For a moment, no one moved. Then Jasmine stepped forward, tears already streaming down her face. She approached the bed slowly and took Marcus's hand. "Hi," she said simply. "I'm your sister." That broke the dam. The others crowded around the bed, carefully mindful of the medical equipment, each introducing themselves. MJ talked about basketball, finding common ground immediately. The twins chattered about their college classes. Jeffrey, the oldest, stood back slightly, observing with the protective instinct of a big brother. "This is surreal," Marcus said, looking around at all the faces, his faces. They all had variations of Michael's features. The same eyes, the same smile, the same mannerisms. "I have siblings, real siblings." "4 of them," Isabel said brightly, "and we're not going anywhere." They spent the morning together, the Jordan siblings getting to know each other. Marcus told stories about growing up in Wilmington, about coaching youth basketball, about watching their father's games on television and imagining being part of the family. The others shared their own stories, their memories of growing up as Michael Jordan's children, the good parts and the complicated parts. "People always expected us to be perfect," MJ said. "Like being Dad's kid meant we had to be great at everything. That was hard sometimes." "Try being Dad's secret kid who nobody knew about," Marcus countered with dark humor. "That was its own kind of hard." They laughed, and the tension eased. By lunchtime, they were joking and teasing like siblings who'd known each other for years instead of hours. Michael watched from the corner, his heart full despite the circumstances. His children, all of them, together. Cassie brought sandwiches from a local deli, and they had an impromptu picnic in the hospital room. The nurses looked the other way when 7 people crowded into a space meant for 3. This was family. This was important. But around 2 o'clock, Marcus's energy began to fade. His responses grew slower, his eyelids heavier. Dr. Reeves arrived for her afternoon rounds and gently suggested that Marcus needed rest. "We'll come back tomorrow," Jeffrey promised, squeezing Marcus's shoulder. "We're not far away. We got a hotel down the street." After the siblings left, promising to return the next day, Dr. Reeves asked Michael and Cassie to step into her office. The serious expression on her face made Michael's stomach drop. "Is something wrong?" Cassie asked immediately. Dr. Reeves gestured for them to sit. "I need to discuss Michael's cardiac workup. We've run extensive tests over the past few days to assess the risks of putting him under general anesthesia." "And?" Michael prompted. "The atrial fibrillation is more significant than we initially thought. Your heart rhythm is irregular enough that putting you under anesthesia carries substantial risk. We're looking at closer to 10% chance of serious complications now, not 5. 10% means 90% chance everything goes fine," Michael said. "Those are good odds." "Michael, we're talking about stroke, heart attack, or death," Dr. Reeves said bluntly. "This isn't a basketball game. This is your life. And Marcus's life is at stake if I don't do this," Michael countered. "When is the procedure scheduled?" "Friday morning." "But Michael, I need you to seriously consider—" "I've considered," Michael interrupted. "I'm doing it. What do I need to do to prepare?" Dr. Reeves sighed, clearly not happy with his decision but respecting it. "We'll put you on blood thinners starting tomorrow. You'll need to follow a strict medication protocol. No alcohol, no strenuous activity, and we'll monitor your heart continuously leading up to the procedure." "Done. What else?" "The bone marrow extraction will take about an hour. We'll extract marrow from your pelvic bone. It's painful, but necessary. Recovery typically takes a few days. You'll be sore, tired, possibly running a low fever. But given your age and the heart condition, your recovery may take longer." "I don't care how long it takes," Michael said, "as long as Marcus gets what he needs." After leaving Dr. Reeves' office, Michael and Cassie walked to the hospital's small chapel. They sat in the empty room, surrounded by stained glass and silence. "You don't have to do this," Cassie said quietly. 10% risk, Mike. Those aren't great odds." "They're better than Marcus's odds without the transplant," Michael pointed out. "What if something goes wrong? What if you die trying to save him? How am I supposed to live with that? How is Marcus supposed to live with that?" Michael turned to face her. "Cassie, I've lived a full life. I've accomplished more than most people dream of. But all of that, every trophy, every championship, every dollar, it means nothing compared to this. Marcus is my son. Saving his life is the most important thing I'll ever do. If something goes wrong, at least I'll know I tried. At least I'll know I showed up when it mattered." Tears streamed down Cassie's face. "I can't lose you too. I can't lose both of you." "You're not going to lose either of us," Michael said with more confidence than he felt. "We're both fighters. We're both stubborn. We're going to make it through this." They sat together in the chapel until the light through the stained glass began to fade, each lost in their own prayers and fears. Tuesday. Michael started the medication protocol, taking pills that made him nauseous and lightheaded. He spent every day with Marcus, their conversations growing deeper and more meaningful. They talked about regrets and dreams and all the years they'd lost. "If you'd known about me," Marcus asked one afternoon, "what would you have done? Would you have stayed in Wilmington, given up basketball?" Michael considered the question carefully. "Honestly, I don't know what 18-year-old me would have done. I'd like to think I would have found a way to do both, play basketball and be your father. But I was young and stupid and completely focused on basketball. I might have resented being tied down. I might have made your life miserable." "At least you're honest," Marcus said. "But I'll tell you this," Michael continued. "If I'd known about you, even if I'd gone to UNC, I would have come back every weekend. I would have been at your games. I would have taught you everything I knew. Because once I knew you existed, once I held you, there's no way I could have stayed away. You would have been everything to me." Marcus nodded, seeming to accept this answer. "I used to be so angry at you. Even though Mom said you didn't know, part of me thought maybe you'd figured it out and just didn't care. That you had your life and I wasn't important enough to be part of it." "You were always important," Michael said fiercely. "Even when I didn't know you existed, there was something missing in my life. Some piece I couldn't identify. Now I know what it was. It was you." Wednesday. Michael's other children visited again, bringing games and movies to keep Marcus entertained. They were creating family traditions on the fly, inside jokes and shared references that would bind them together. Marcus lit up whenever they arrived, his energy reviving despite his illness. "This is what I always wanted," Marcus told Michael that evening after everyone had left. "A big family, people who cared about me. I had mom and my grandparents, and that was good. But this, siblings who want to know me, a father who's here, this is what I dreamed about when I was a kid." "You've got it now," Michael promised. "And you're going to have it for a long time. Decades. You're going to be at their weddings. You're going to be an uncle to their kids. You're going to be the annoying older brother who gives unsolicited advice." Marcus smiled. "Older than MJ and Jeffrey?" "Older than everyone except Jeffrey," Michael said. "You get to be the wise big brother." "I like that," Marcus said softly. Thursday evening. The night before the surgery, Michael couldn't sleep. He lay in his bed at the bed and breakfast, staring at the ceiling, thinking about everything that had led him to this moment. A letter from Cassie, a son named Marcus, a cancer diagnosis, a risky surgery that might kill him or save them both. His phone buzzed with a text from Cassie. "Are you awake?" Michael replied. "Can't sleep?" "Me neither. Can we talk? Meet at the tree?" 20 minutes later, Michael stood beneath the old oak tree, watching moonlight dance on the river. Cassie appeared from the darkness, wrapped in a cardigan against the cool night air. "I keep thinking about all the choices I made," Cassie said, standing beside him. "If I'd told you about the pregnancy, how would things be different? Would Marcus have grown up with a father? Would you have given up basketball? Would we have gotten married and been miserable? Would we have been happy?" "We can't know," Michael said. "All those possible futures, they don't exist. We can only deal with the one that did happen." "Are you scared?" Cassie asked. "About tomorrow?" "Terrified," Michael admitted. "But I'm more scared of not doing it. Of Marcus dying because I was too afraid to take a risk. That would destroy me, Cassie. I'd never forgive myself." Cassie took his hand, lacing their fingers together the way they used to as teenagers. "I never stopped loving you, you know. Even after all these years. Even after everything. You were my first love, Mike. That never really goes away." Michael squeezed her hand. "You were mine too. And who knows, maybe in another lifetime we get our happy ending. But in this lifetime, our happy ending is Marcus surviving. That's what we're fighting for." They stood beneath the tree for a long time, holding hands, both thinking about tomorrow and all its terrifying possibilities. Friday morning, surgery day. Michael arrived at the hospital at 5 in the morning. He wore sweatpants and a comfortable shirt, ready to be changed into a hospital gown. His children were already there, gathered in the pre-op waiting area. Marcus's room was empty. He'd been moved to an isolation unit in preparation for receiving the transplant. Dr. Reeves appeared with a clipboard full of consent forms. "This is your last chance to back out," she said seriously. "Michael, I need you to understand that this procedure carries real risks. Your heart condition makes this more dangerous than a typical bone marrow donation." "I understand," Michael said. "Let's do this." He signed the forms while his children watched anxiously. Jeffrey looked like he might be sick. Jasmine was crying quietly. The twins held hands, mirror images of worry. "Dad," Jeffrey said, "if something happens—" "Nothing's going to happen," Michael interrupted. "But if it does, you take care of each other. You take care of Marcus. You make sure he knows he's part of this family, that he's loved. Can you promise me that?" They all promised through tears. A nurse came to take Michael to the operating room. He hugged each of his children, holding them tight, memorizing the feel of them in his arms. "I'll see you in a few hours," he said with confidence he didn't completely feel. "And then we're all going to watch Marcus get better. This is going to work." They wheeled him through sterile hallways to the operating room. The last thing Michael saw before the anesthesia took hold was Dr. Reeves's face above him, professional and focused. "Count backward from 10, she instructed. 10, 9, 8. Michael's vision blurred. 7. Marcus. 6. The world went dark. In another operating room, Marcus lay unconscious, his body being prepared to receive his father's bone marrow, the cells that might save his life. The gift from a father who'd missed 24 years but was here now, risking everything. 2 Jordans, 2 lives hanging in the balance, connected by blood and bone marrow, and a love that had somehow survived 25 years of separation. Outside in the waiting room, Cassie held Michael's children as they waited for news. Jasmine prayed quietly. MJ paced. Jeffrey stared at the floor. The twins leaned against each other. They waited, and prayed that both their father and their brother would survive the day. The surgery stretched longer than expected. 1 hour became 2, then 3. The Jordan children sat in the waiting room, time moving like molasses. Every time a door opened, they looked up with desperate hope, only to sink back into anxiety when it was someone else's doctor, someone else's news. Jasmine clutched a rosary, her lips moving in silent prayer. MJ had worn a path in the carpet from his relentless pacing. Jeffrey sat rigid, his jaw clenched so tight it must have hurt. The twins had fallen asleep on each other's shoulders, exhausted by fear. Cassie stood by the window, staring out at Wilmington without really seeing it. Her hands trembled as she pressed them against the glass. 2 men she loved, the father of her child and the child himself, both fighting for survival in operating rooms down the hall. Finally, after 4.5 hours, Dr. Reeves emerged. Her scrubs showed signs of the long procedure, and exhaustion lined her face, but she was smiling. "The extractions went perfectly," she said, and the entire room seemed to exhale as one. "We harvested an excellent amount of bone marrow from Michael. His heart rhythm stayed stable throughout the procedure. He's in recovery now and doing well." "And Marcus?" Cassie asked, her voice barely audible. "The transplant was successful. Marcus received the bone marrow without complications. Now comes the waiting period. We need to see if his body accepts the transplant and begins producing healthy blood cells." Dr. Reeves looked at each of them in turn. "The next few weeks will be critical, but both procedures went as well as we could have hoped." Jeffrey collapsed back into his chair, covering his face with his hands. Jasmine sobbed with relief. MJ stopped pacing and leaned against the wall, shaking. The twins woke up and immediately started crying when Cassie told them the news. "When can we see him?" Jeffrey asked. "See Dad? He should be awake in about an hour. You can visit him in recovery then, but only 2 at a time. He needs rest." Dr. Reeves paused. "I have to say, your father is incredibly stubborn. He woke up briefly during the procedure. The anesthesia wasn't quite deep enough." "Do you know what he said?" They shook their heads. "He said, 'Did Marcus get it? Is he okay?' Even half conscious, his first thought was for his son." Dr. Reeves smiled. "That's the kind of father you have." Recovery room. An hour later, Jeffrey and Cassie were allowed into Michael's recovery room. He lay in bed, pale and groggy, with monitors tracking his vital signs. An IV dripped fluids into his arm. He looked small somehow, diminished by the hospital gown and the vulnerability of unconsciousness. But his eyes opened when they entered, and he immediately tried to sit up. "Marcus?" His voice was hoarse from the breathing tube. "He's okay," Cassie said quickly, rushing to his side. "The transplant went perfectly. He's in isolation now, receiving your bone marrow." Michael's body relaxed back into the pillows. "It worked. It actually worked." "Dad, you need to rest," Jeffrey said, his voice thick with emotion. "You just had major surgery." "I'm fine," Michael insisted, though the wince of pain as he shifted positions told a different story. "When can I see Marcus?" "Not for a few days," Cassie said. "You both need to recover. But Mike, you did it. You saved our son." Tears leaked from the corners of Michael's eyes. "He's going to make it. He's going to be okay." "Thanks to you," Jeffrey said. "Dad, you're crazy, you know that? 10% risk. You could have died." "But I didn't," Michael said. "And Marcus is going to live. That's all that matters." Over the next 2 days, Michael recovered in his hospital room while Marcus remained in isolation down the hall. The bone marrow transplant required Marcus to be kept in a sterile environment while his body processed the new cells and his immune system rebuilt itself. Michael's other children rotated through visits, keeping him company and updating him constantly on Marcus's condition. The doctors reported that Marcus's body showed early signs of accepting the transplant. His blood counts were beginning to rise, and he hadn't developed any immediate complications. "It's going better than we hoped," Dr. Reeves told Michael on the second day. "Marcus is a fighter. He's doing everything right." By the third day, Michael was cleared to move around with assistance. He immediately insisted on visiting Marcus, though they could only communicate through the glass window of the isolation room and via intercom. Marcus looked tiny in the sterile room, surrounded by machines and wearing a hospital gown that swallowed his thin frame. But he smiled when he saw Michael at the window, a real smile that reached his eyes. "Hey, Dad," Marcus said through the intercom, and something in Michael's chest cracked open at hearing that word. Dad. "Hey, son," Michael replied. "How are you feeling?" "Weird. Tired. But the doctors say my counts are improving. Your bone marrow is working." Marcus pressed his hand against the glass. "You saved my life." Michael pressed his hand against the other side, matching palm to palm with only glass between them. "You're my son. That's what fathers do." They talked for 20 minutes before nurses shooed Michael back to his room, insisting he needed rest. But Michael felt better than he had in days. Marcus was responding to treatment. The transplant was working. 1 week later, Michael was discharged from the hospital but stayed in Wilmington, visiting Marcus every day. The young man's progress was remarkable. His blood counts rose steadily, his energy improved, and color began returning to his face. 2 weeks after the transplant, Marcus was allowed out of isolation. The moment Michael could finally hug his son without a glass barrier between them, they both cried. Marcus was still weak, still fragile, but alive. Getting stronger every day. "The doctors say if things keep improving, I can go home in another 2 weeks, Marcus told Michael one afternoon. They sat together in Marcus's new room, watching basketball highlights on television. Real home, not hospital home. "That's great," Michael said, "and then we'll figure out what comes next. Physical therapy, getting your strength back, maybe some light coaching if you're up for it." "I've been thinking," Marcus said slowly. "When I get better, I'd like to come visit you in Charlotte. Meet more of the family. Maybe spend some time really getting to know everyone." "You can stay as long as you want," Michael said immediately. "Forever if you want. I have plenty of room." Marcus smiled. "I don't know about forever, but maybe a few months. I'd like that." They were planning the future, something that had seemed impossible just weeks ago. Michael's heart felt full in a way it never had before, even after championship wins. But that evening, when Michael and Cassie took their customary walk to the oak tree, Cassie seemed nervous. She kept twisting her hands together, starting to speak and then stopping. "What's wrong?" Michael finally asked. "Is it Marcus? Did something happen?" "No, Marcus is fine, Cassie took a deep breath. "Mike, there's something else I need to tell you. Something I should have told you before the surgery. But I was afraid if I did, it would distract you, and I needed you focused on Marcus." A chill ran down Michael's spine despite the warm evening. "What is it?" Cassie reached into her bag and pulled out an old photograph. The image showed 2 young women sitting in a hospital waiting room, both heavily pregnant. One was clearly Cassie. The other was unfamiliar, but had kind eyes and looked terrified. "Do you remember my cousin Teresa?" Cassie asked. Michael's brow furrowed. "Vaguely. She lived near Chapel Hill, right?" "She was a student at UNC, same time as you." Cassie's voice was shaking now. "Mike, when I found out I was pregnant with Marcus, I was terrified and alone. Teresa was the first person I told. She helped me through everything, drove me to doctor's appointments, held my hand, helped me figure out what to do." "Okay," Michael said slowly, not understanding where this was going. "Teresa got pregnant that same year, the same semester. She was dating someone on the basketball team." Cassie's eyes filled with tears. "Mike, she was dating you." The world tilted. Michael grabbed onto the oak tree for support, his hand finding the carved initials that suddenly felt like they belonged to different people. What? You dated her for a few months your freshman year, Cassie continued, tears streaming now. Teresa Bennett. She used her middle name at school so people wouldn't connect her to my family right away. You knew her as Teresa Morrison. Teresa Morrison. The name hit Michael like a physical blow. He remembered her, a quiet girl in his psychology class. They'd dated casually for maybe 3 months. Nothing serious, at least not to 18-year-old Michael. Then she'd transferred to another school, and he'd never heard from her again. She was pregnant? Michael's voice came out strangled. With a daughter, Cassie said. Her name is Alana. Alana Morrison. She was born 3 months before Marcus, April 6, 1980. Michael's legs gave out. He slid down to sit at the base of the tree, his back pressed against the bark where he and Cassie had once carved their promise. A daughter. Another child. Another person who existed because of him and grew up without him. Why didn't she tell me? The question came out as a whisper. For the same reasons I didn't, Cassie said, kneeling beside him. Teresa was scared. Her parents wanted her to give the baby up for adoption. She felt like telling you would ruin your future. She eventually married someone else, a good man named Robert Morrison who adopted Alana and raised her as his own. Alana doesn't know who her biological father is. Michael's mind spun. 2 children. 2 secret children born the same year, both kept from him. The magnitude of it was crushing. Where is she? Michael managed to ask. This daughter, Alana, where is she? Cassie's voice was barely audible. She lives here in Wilmington. She's a doctor, an oncologist at New Hanover Regional Medical Center. Mike, she's been part of Marcus's medical team this entire time. She's one of the doctors who's been treating your son. Your daughter has been helping save your son's life, and neither of them knows their siblings. Neither of them knows you're her father. The revelation hit Michael like a sledgehammer. He sat frozen, unable to process this impossible truth. His daughter, a woman he'd never met, had been walking the same hospital halls where he'd spent weeks. She might have examined him during his donor screening. She'd been caring for Marcus, for her brother, without anyone knowing. How? When did you find out? Michael finally asked. I've known for years. Teresa and I stayed close. She made me promise never to tell you, said you had enough complications in your life. But 4 years ago, Teresa died of breast cancer. Cassie's voice broke. On her deathbed, she made me promise that if anything ever happened to Marcus, if he got sick or needed anything, I would tell you everything, both truths. She said you deserved to know both your children even if it was too late. Michael looked up at Cassie with red-rimmed eyes. Which doctor is she? What does she look like? Dr. Alana Morrison. She's tall, about 5'10", athletic build. She has your eyes, Mike. The exact same eyes. Strong features, warm smile. She's been at the hospital the whole time, but she's not Marcus's primary physician. She's one of the consulting oncologists, the one who explained the transplant risks to you that first day. Michael's breath caught. He knew exactly who Cassie was talking about. The tall doctor with the kind manner who'd squeezed his shoulder before surgery, who'd updated him on test results with such patience. Who had his eyes? He saw it now, saw himself in her face. His daughter. Does Marcus know? Michael asked. No. Teresa never told Alana about Marcus. They're strangers who happen to be siblings, working and being treated in the same hospital. Mike, there's something else you need to know. Cassie took a shaking breath. Teresa told me before she died that Alana has a genetic marker for the same type of leukemia Marcus has. It's rare, but hereditary. Alana gets screened regularly because of Teresa's cancer history, but she doesn't know she's at risk for leukemia too. She should know, Mike, for her own health, for any children she might have in the future. Michael stood on shaking legs, his mind reeling. Inside that hospital were both his children, Marcus, who he'd just saved, and Alana, who didn't know she was his daughter. 2 children born the same year to 2 different women, both kept secret for 25 years. What do I do? Michael asked. Do I tell her? That's not my decision to make, Cassie said. But I think she deserves the truth, just like Marcus did. And Mike, she needs to know about the genetic risk. That's not optional. That's her health, her life. Michael's hands trembled. Yesterday, he'd thought the hard part was over. Marcus was recovering. The transplant was working. They were building a relationship. But this changed everything again. I need to think, Michael said. I need time to process this. But even as he said it, Michael knew there wasn't really a choice to make. Alana deserved the truth. She deserved to know where she came from, who her father was, and what genetic risks she carried. She deserved to know she had a brother fighting cancer down the hall. The story that had begun with one letter from Cassie had unraveled into something far more complex than Michael could have imagined. One son had become two children. One secret had become multiple secrets layered on top of each other. Michael looked at the oak tree, at the initials he and Cassie had carved a lifetime ago. MJ plus CB. It had seemed so simple then, just two kids in love, promising forever. But life was never simple. Life was messy and complicated and full of consequences that echoed across decades. Tomorrow, Michael would have to find Dr. Alana Morrison. Tomorrow, he would have to tell a 39-year-old woman that everything she thought she knew about her identity was wrong. Tomorrow, he would have to explain to his daughter why her father had been absent for her entire life. But tonight, Michael sat beneath the oak tree with Cassie, both of them crying for all the years lost and all the pain caused by secrets that had been kept with good intentions but terrible results. "I'm sorry," Cassie whispered, "for all of it. For every secret, for every moment you missed, for the weight of all this truth landing on you at once." Michael took her hand. "I know, and I forgive you. Again, because what else can I do? All these secrets, yours, Teresa's, your father's, they can't be undone. All I can do is move forward, be the father both Marcus and Alana need now, make the best of the time we have left." They sat together until dawn, began to lighten the sky, preparing themselves for another impossible conversation, another revelation, another beginning built on the ruins of 25 years of silence. Michael Jordan had faced impossible challenges before, but telling his daughter the truth about who she was, that might be the hardest thing he'd ever done. Michael didn't sleep. He sat in his room at the bed and breakfast, watching the sun rise over Wilmington, thinking about Dr. Alana Morrison, his daughter, a woman who'd lived 39 years without knowing her real father's identity, a woman who'd unknowingly treated her own brother, a woman whose entire understanding of herself was about to be shattered. At 7 in the morning, Michael texted Dr. Reeves, "I need to speak with Dr. Alana Morrison today, privately. It's urgent and personal." The response came quickly. "Is this about Marcus's treatment?" "No, it's about her. Please arrange a meeting. I'll explain everything." By 9 o'clock, Dr. Reeves had set up a private conference room on the 4th floor. She didn't ask questions, though curiosity showed on her face. "Dr. Morrison will be here at 10. She thinks this is about Marcus's care plan." Michael spent the hour rehearsing what he would say. Every version sounded impossible. How did you tell someone their entire life was built on a lie? How did you explain 39 years of absence in a way that didn't sound like abandonment? At exactly 10 o'clock, there was a knock on the conference room door. Michael's heart hammered against his ribs as he called out, "Come in." Dr. Alana Morrison entered, carrying a tablet and wearing her white coat over navy blue scrubs. She was tall, taller than he'd realized, with an athletic build that suggested she worked out regularly. Her dark hair was pulled back in a practical ponytail. She had strong features, an intelligent face, and yes, Michael's eyes. The exact same shape, the exact same intense gaze he saw in the mirror every day. How had he not seen it before? "Mr. Jordan," Alana said professionally, extending her hand. "Dr. Reeves said you wanted to discuss something important. If this is about Marcus's recovery plan, I should mention that Dr. Reeves is his primary physician. I'm just consulting on his case." Michael shook her hand, his daughter's hand, and felt his throat tighten. "Please sit down. This isn't about Marcus's treatment. Not exactly, it's personal. Confusion crossed Alana's face, but she sat. She placed her tablet on the table and folded her hands, waiting. Professional. Composed. Everything about her demeanor spoke of someone who had worked hard to get where she was, who took her career seriously. Michael sat across from her, suddenly unsure how to begin. He'd won championships, run billion-dollar businesses, faced down the toughest opponents in basketball, but nothing had prepared him for this. Dr. Morrison, Alana, I need to tell you something that's going to sound impossible, Michael began. Something that's going to change everything you think you know about yourself. And I need you to hear me out completely before you react, because this is complicated. Alana's professional mask slipped slightly, concern replacing composure. Mr. Jordan, you're making me nervous. What is this about? Michael took a deep breath. I knew your mother, Teresa Bennett. We dated briefly when we were both students at UNC in 1979. We were together for about 3 months, nothing serious. At least, I didn't think it was serious at the time. Then she transferred to another school and I never heard from her again. The color drained from Alana's face. How do you know my mother's maiden name? Because Cassie, Marcus's mother, is Teresa's cousin. They were best friends. They were both pregnant at the same time in the same year, with children fathered by the same man. Michael paused, letting that sink in. Alana, I'm your biological father. Robert Morrison is the man who raised you, and I'm sure he's a wonderful father. But biologically, genetically, I'm your father. Alana stood abruptly, her chair scraping loudly against the floor. That's insane. Why would my mother never tell me? Why would she let me grow up thinking... She stopped, breathing hard. No, you're wrong. You have to be wrong. I wish I was, Michael said quietly. But I'm not. Cassie has photographs, documentation from Teresa. Your mother made her promise to tell me the truth if anything ever happened to Marcus. She wanted you to know where you came from, even if she couldn't tell you herself. Alana's hands gripped the back of her chair so tightly her knuckles turned white. This is a mistake. Some kind of misunderstanding. My father is Robert Morrison. He's been my dad since I was 3 years old. He raised me. He paid for medical school. He walked me down the aisle at my wedding. And he sounds like a good man, Michael said. A man who loved you and raised you as his own. But Alana, your mother and I were together in 1979. You were born in April 1980. The timeline matches. And if you look in a mirror, really look, you'll see what I see. You have my eyes, my jawline, my build. You're my daughter. Alana sank back into the chair, her face pale. Why? Why wouldn't she tell me? I asked about my biological father when I was growing up. She said he was a college boyfriend who didn't know about me, that he'd moved away and she didn't know how to find him. She made it sound like some random guy. Not, she gestured at Michael helplessly. Not you. Not Michael Jordan. Because she was protecting my future, Michael said. Just like Cassie did. These were young women, 17, 18 years old, who got pregnant by a guy with big dreams and a bright future. They made the choice to raise their children alone rather than burden me with responsibility. I hate that choice. I'm angry about it. But I understand it. Alana's eyes filled with tears. Marcus, you said Marcus is Teresa's cousin's son. That means... Her voice dropped to a whisper. Marcus is my brother? Half-brother, yes. You share the same father. You've been treating your own brother this whole time and neither of you knew it. Alana covered her face with her hands. Her shoulders shook with silent sobs. Michael wanted to comfort her, to reach out. But he didn't know if he had that right. He'd just destroyed her understanding of her own identity. He was a stranger who claimed to be her father. How could he possibly comfort her? After a long moment, Alana wiped her eyes and looked at Michael with a mixture of pain and anger. Do you know what it's like to wonder your whole life why your biological father didn't want you? I used to make up stories. Maybe he was dead. Maybe he was overseas and couldn't get back. Maybe he didn't know about me. Her voice turned bitter. But in my darkest moments, I thought maybe he just didn't care. Maybe I wasn't important enough for him to stick around. The words cut Michael like knives. He didn't know, Michael said firmly. I didn't know. Alana, if I had known about you, everything would have been different. I would have been there when you were born. I would have held you and protected you and loved you. I would have taught you to play basketball, scared away your first boyfriend, paid for medical school myself, and walked you down the aisle. But you didn't, Alana said flatly. Whether you knew or not, you weren't there. I grew up without a biological father. I wondered about you my entire life. And now you're telling me you've been famous the whole time? That I could have looked up and seen your face on television, on billboards, in magazines, and never known that was my father? I know, Michael said, his own tears falling now. And I'm so sorry. I can never make up for 39 years. I can never give you back your childhood or fill all those moments when you needed a father and I wasn't there. But I'm here now, Alana. If you'll let me, I want to be in your life. I want to know you. I want to be your father, even though I'm decades too late. Alana stood again, pacing the small conference room. This is too much. This is all too much. Yesterday, I was Dr. Alana Morrison, oncologist, daughter of Robert and Teresa Morrison. Today I'm… What? Michael Jordan's secret daughter? Marcus's sister? My entire identity just shifted, and I don't know how to process that. I know it's overwhelming, Michael said. Take all the time you need. I'm not going anywhere. But Alana, there's something else you need to know. Something medical. She turned sharply. What? Your mother told Cassie before she died that you carry a genetic marker for acute myeloid leukemia, the same type Marcus has. It's rare but hereditary. You need to know this for your own health. For any children you might have. Alana's professional training kicked in despite her emotional turmoil. AML has hereditary factors. I screen regularly because of mom's breast cancer, but I didn't know to screen for leukemia. I need to… She trailed off, her mind clearly racing through medical protocols. I need to run additional tests, update my screening schedule, inform my own children if I have any. She looked at Michael. Do I have siblings, other than Marcus? 4 more, Michael said. Jeffrey, another Marcus, we call him MJ, Jasmine, and twin daughters Victoria and Isabel. They all know about you. They're all excited to meet you if you want to meet them. I have 6 siblings, Alana said wonderingly. I grew up an only child and now I have 6 siblings. A big family, Michael confirmed. And they're good people, Alana. They want to know you, but only if you're ready. There's no pressure, no timeline. You control how this goes. Alana was quiet for a long moment, processing everything. Finally, she asked the question that mattered most. Does Marcus know about me? Not yet. I wanted to tell you first, but Alana, he needs to know. He's your brother. When he gets through this, and he will get through this, he's going to need family around him. He's going to need you. What if I'm not ready? Alana whispered. What if I need time to figure out who I am now before I become someone's sister? Someone's daughter? Then you take all the time you need, Michael said gently. I've missed 39 years of your life. I can wait as long as you need me to wait. But please, Alana, just think about it. Think about the possibility that maybe it's not too late for us. That maybe we can build something real, even if it's not what it should have been. Alana moved toward the door, then stopped with her hand on the handle. She looked back at Michael, this man who claimed to be her father, this legend she'd watched on television growing up, never knowing they shared DNA. I need time, she said. I need to think. I need to talk to my dad, Robert. He deserves to know about this before I make any decisions. Of course, Michael said. Whatever you need. Alana opened the door, then paused again. Can I ask you something? Anything. Did you love my mother? Back then, I mean? Michael thought carefully. I cared about her. She was kind and smart and fun to be with. But I was 18 and stupid and completely focused on basketball. I didn't love her the way she probably deserved to be loved. If I'd known about you, that would have changed. But at the time, no, I didn't love her enough. Alana nodded, seeming to appreciate the honesty. At least you're not lying about it. She pulled a card from her pocket and handed it to Michael. That's my cell number. Give me a few days, then maybe we can talk again. Thank you, Michael said, taking the card like it was made of gold. Alana, for what it's worth, I'm proud of you. Your mother raised an incredible daughter. You're brilliant and compassionate and dedicated to helping people. That's everything a father could want in a child. Alana's eyes filled with tears again. Don't, she said softly. Don't say things like that yet. I'm not ready for that. She left, the door closing softly behind her. Michael sat alone in the conference room, emotionally exhausted. He'd just met his daughter, really met her, and told her a truth that had destroyed her understanding of herself. But it was the right thing to do. She deserved to know. Just like Marcus had deserved to know. Now Michael had 2 children in the same hospital, both processing life-changing revelations about their identities. And 4 more children in a hotel nearby, waiting to meet their newfound siblings. Michael's family had become impossibly complicated. But looking at Alana's card, seeing her name and number written in neat professional handwriting, Michael felt something shift in his chest. Hope. Maybe it wasn't too late. Maybe they could build something from the ruins of all these secrets. Maybe 39 years of absence didn't have to define their relationship forever. Michael stood and walked toward Marcus's room. His son needed to know about Alana. Needed to know he had a sister who'd been caring for him all along. Needed to know that their family was bigger and more complex than either of them had imagined. The truth was finally out. All of it. And now they would have to figure out how to move forward. A family assembled from secrets and revelations, connected by blood and bone marrow, and the stubborn refusal to let the past destroy the future. Michael paused outside Marcus's room, gathering his courage for yet another difficult conversation. Through the window, he could see his son sitting up in bed, looking stronger than he had in weeks. The transplant was working. Marcus was surviving. That was what mattered most. Everything else, the complications, the relationships, the awkward family dynamics, they would figure it out together. Michael opened the door and stepped inside, ready to tell his son about the sister he'd never known he had. The story that began with a letter from Cassie had become something neither of them could have predicted. But maybe, just maybe, it would end with something beautiful. A broken family made whole, a group of strangers becoming siblings, and a father who'd missed so much finally getting the chance to be present for what remained. It wouldn't erase the past, but it might just redeem it. Michael entered Marcus's room with the weight of another revelation pressing on his shoulders. His son looked up from the basketball game playing on the tablet, his face brightening immediately. "Hey, Dad," Marcus said, and the word still made Michael's heart skip. "Where have you been? I thought you'd be here earlier." Michael pulled the chair close to the bed and sat down heavily. "I had something I needed to do, something important. And now I need to talk to you about something that's going to sound impossible." Marcus's smile faded, replaced by concern. "That's the same thing you said when you told me you were my father." "What now? Do I have another sibling somewhere?" "Actually, yes," Michael said. "Marcus, do you remember Dr. Morrison, the tall oncologist with the kind smile who's been consulting on your case?" "Dr. Alana?" "Yeah, she's great. She always explains things so I can understand them." "Why?" Michael took a deep breath. "Her mother was Teresa Bennett, Cassie's cousin. Teresa and I dated briefly at UNC in 1979, the same time your mother and I were together. Marcus, Dr. Morrison is my daughter, your half-sister. She's been treating you this whole time and neither of you knew you were related." Marcus stared at him, mouth open. "Dr. Alana is my sister?" "Yes. She was born 3 months before you. She doesn't know Robert Morrison isn't her biological father. Well, she didn't know until about an hour ago when I told her." "You told her?" Marcus's eyes widened. "How did she react?" "About how you'd expect. Shock, anger, confusion. She needs time to process." Michael reached for Marcus's hand. "But son, you have a sister. A big sister who's brilliant and compassionate and has been working to save your life without knowing she was saving her brother." Marcus was quiet for a long moment, processing. Then a smile slowly spread across his face. "I have a sister, a real sister. You do, and 4 more siblings, my other kids. You're part of a big family now, Marcus. Does she want to meet me? Like, Meet me as her brother, not her patient? I don't know yet. She needs time. But I think she will, eventually. This is a lot for her to take in. Marcus nodded, understanding. It was a lot for me too at first, but I'm glad you told me. I'm glad you didn't keep it secret. He paused. Dad, can I ask you something? Anything. Do you think things happen for a reason? Like, maybe I got sick so you'd find out about me, so we could all find each other? Michael considered the question carefully. I don't know if I believe everything happens for a reason, but I do believe we can find meaning in what happens. You getting sick is terrible, but it brought us together. It brought this whole family together. So maybe that's the meaning. Not that you were supposed to get sick, but that we were supposed to find each other. Marcus squeezed his father's hand. I like that answer. They talked for another hour about Alana, about the complicated family tree that had emerged, about what it might be like when everyone finally met. Marcus's energy and optimism lifted Michael's spirits. Despite everything, the cancer, the secrets, the painful revelations, his son remained hopeful. But around noon, Marcus's demeanor changed. He became quieter, less engaged. His responses grew shorter. You okay? Michael asked. Just tired, Marcus said, but his voice lacked conviction. Michael was about to suggest rest when Marcus suddenly grimaced, his hand going to his stomach. Something doesn't feel right. What kind of not right? Michael stood immediately, pressing the call button for the nurse. My stomach hurts, and I feel hot. Marcus's face was flushed, sweat beading on his forehead. A nurse rushed in, took one look at Marcus and immediately began checking his vital signs. Her expression grew grave as she read the thermometer. His temperature is 103.6, she said, urgency creeping into her voice. I'm calling Dr. Reeves. Within minutes, Marcus's room was full of medical staff. Dr. Reeves examined him quickly, asking rapid-fire questions. Marcus's responses grew more confused, his words slurring slightly. What's happening? Michael demanded, fear clawing at his chest. His body might be rejecting the transplant, Dr. Reeves said, already issuing orders to nurses. Or it could be graft versus host disease, when the donor cells attack his organs. Either way, this is serious. We need to move him to intensive care immediately. No, Michael said, his voice breaking. No, he was doing so well. The transplant was working. Complications can arise suddenly, Dr. Reeves explained as they began moving Marcus's bed. We need to act fast. Michael followed as they wheeled Marcus through the hallways. Cassie appeared from somewhere, her face white with terror. She grabbed Michael's arm as they rushed toward the ICU. What happened? He was fine this morning. I don't know, Michael said. He just suddenly got worse. They reached the ICU, but the doors closed in front of them. A nurse gently but firmly blocked their path. You'll have to wait here, she said. The doctors need room to work. We'll update you as soon as we can. Michael and Cassie stood frozen outside the ICU doors, watching through small windows as medical staff swarmed around Marcus. Machines beeped frantically. Someone called for medication. Dr. Reeves's voice rose above the chaos, issuing commands. This can't be happening, Cassie whispered. Not after everything. Not after he survived the transplant. Michael pulled out his phone with shaking hands and called Jeffrey. Get everyone to the hospital. Now, it's Marcus. Something's wrong. Within 30 minutes, all of Michael's children had arrived. They crowded into the ICU waiting room. Jeffrey, MJ, Jasmine, and the twins. They hugged their father, their faces showing the same fear Michael felt in his bones. What do we know? Jeffrey asked. Nothing yet. They think his body might be rejecting the transplant. Michael's voice was hollow. After everything, after the surgery and the risk and the hope, his body might be rejecting it. They waited. Minutes stretched into hours. Doctors and nurses rushed in and out of the ICU, none stopping to give updates. Michael paced the waiting room like a caged animal, unable to sit still, unable to do anything but move. At some point, someone brought coffee. It sat untouched. At some point, the sun set outside the windows. Nobody noticed. Mr. Jordan? Michael spun around. Dr. Reeves stood in the doorway, still wearing her scrubs. Her face was exhausted, and Michael couldn't read her expression. "How is he?" Michael asked, afraid of the answer. "Stable for now. It's not transplant rejection. That's the good news. It's graft versus host disease, or GVHD. The donor cells, your cells, are attacking Marcus's organs, particularly his liver and digestive system." "What does that mean?" Cassie asked. "Can you fix it?" "We've started high-dose immunosuppressant drugs to calm his immune system. But it's a delicate balance. We need to suppress the immune response enough to stop the attack, but not so much that he becomes vulnerable to every infection." Dr. Reeves paused. "The next 72 hours are critical. If the medication works and his organs stabilize, he has a good chance. But if the GVHD is too severe..." She didn't finish the sentence. She didn't need to. "Can we see him?" Michael asked. "He's unconscious. We've intubated him to help him breathe. But yes, 2 at a time, briefly." Michael and Cassie went first. The sight of Marcus hit Michael like a physical blow. His son lay motionless. A breathing tube down his throat, multiple IV lines running into his arms. Monitors tracked every heartbeat, every breath, every vital sign. He looked small and fragile and nothing like the young man who'd been joking and smiling just hours ago. "Hey, buddy," Michael said softly, moving to the bedside. He took Marcus's hand, careful of the IV lines. "I know you can hear me. You need to fight this. You need to stay with us. We just found you, Marcus. We can't lose you now." Cassie stood on the other side, tears streaming down her face as she stroked Marcus's forehead. "You're so strong, baby. You've been fighting your whole life. Just a little longer. Just fight a little longer." But Marcus didn't respond. His chest rose and fell mechanically, driven by the ventilator. The monitors beeped their steady rhythm, measuring a life hanging by a thread. They were given 5 minutes, then ushered out so Marcus's siblings could visit. One by one, they went in. Jeffrey, MJ, Jasmine, the twins, each spending a few precious minutes with a brother they'd barely gotten to know. Michael collapsed into a chair in the waiting room, his head in his hands. "This is my fault," he said. "The bone marrow, my cells, they're attacking him. I'm killing my own son." "That's not how it works," a voice said. Michael looked up. Dr. Alana Morrison stood in the doorway, still wearing her white coat. Her eyes were red-rimmed, like she'd been crying, but her expression was determined. "Alana," Michael said, standing, "what are you doing here?" "I heard about Marcus's complication. GVHD is my specialty. I've published 3 papers on it." She stepped into the room, addressing everyone. "Mr. Jordan, the graft versus host disease isn't your fault. It's a known risk of bone marrow transplants. Your cells are doing what they're supposed to do. They're fighting. They're just fighting the wrong things. But there are treatments. There are protocols. Marcus can survive this." Dr. Reeves said the next 72 hours are critical, Cassie said. "They are. But Marcus is young and strong, and he has the best medical team in the state." Alana's voice was steady, professional. "I've asked to be added to his primary care team for the duration of this crisis, if you'll allow it." "You want to treat your brother?" Michael asked quietly. Alana's composure cracked slightly. "I've been thinking about everything you told me today, about who I am, about Marcus, about all of it. And I realized something. I've been treating Marcus for weeks already. I care about him as a patient. Learning he's my brother doesn't change that. If anything, it makes me more determined to save him." Hope flickered in Michael's chest. "You're accepting it? That I'm your father? That Marcus is your brother?" "I'm still processing," Alana admitted. "I'm still angry and confused and overwhelmed. But that patient in there, Marcus, he's my brother. And he needs me. The emotional stuff we can figure out later. Right now, he needs every advantage he can get, and I can give him that advantage." She turned to Dr. Reeves, who'd been listening from the doorway. "Patricia, I want to consult on the immunosuppressant protocol. I've seen cases like this respond better to a combination therapy approach." Dr. Reeves nodded. "My office. Let's review his chart." Before leaving, Alana looked at Michael one more time. "I'm doing this for Marcus, not for you. I want to be clear about that." I understand, Michael said. Thank you. Thank you for being here. After Alana left, Jasmine spoke up. She seems intense. She's brilliant, Cassie said. Teresa raised an amazing daughter. If anyone can help Marcus through this, it's her. The family settled in for a long night. Someone ordered pizza that nobody ate. The twins dozed on each other's shoulders. Jeffrey made phone calls to cancel flights and reschedule obligations. Michael sat motionless, staring at the ICU doors, willing his son to survive. Around midnight, Alana emerged with Dr. Reeves. We've adjusted Marcus's medication protocol, she announced. We should start seeing improvement within 12 to 24 hours if it's going to work. And if it doesn't work? MJ asked. Alana's expression was somber. Then we try the next protocol. And the next? We keep trying until something works, or… She stopped herself. We keep trying until something works, period. Can I see him again? Michael asked. Brief visits only. His body needs rest to fight. Alana paused. But yes, you can see him. Michael went back into the ICU alone this time. Marcus looked unchanged, still unconscious, still ventilated, still surrounded by machines keeping him alive. Michael pulled the chair close and took his son's hand. Listen to me, Marcus. Your sister's out there fighting for you. Alana, Dr. Morrison, she's working to save your life. Your brothers and sisters are in the waiting room praying for you. Your mom is here. I'm here. You've got a whole family pulling for you now. Michael's voice broke. So you don't get to give up. You hear me? You don't get to leave us. Not when we just found each other. Not when there's so much life left to live. The monitors beeped steadily. The ventilator hissed. Marcus didn't move. But Michael stayed, holding his son's hand through the night, refusing to let go, as if his grip alone could anchor Marcus to life. Outside in the waiting room, Alana worked at a laptop, reviewing medical studies, adjusting treatment plans, doing everything in her power to save the brother she'd just learned existed. Two of Michael Jordan's children fought for survival, one on a hospital bed, one at a computer. Both refusing to give up. Both carrying the same stubborn determination that had made their father a legend. The night stretched on, each minute an eternity, each hour a test of faith. And Michael prayed, for the first time in years, really prayed, that his family, assembled from secrets and revelations, wouldn't be torn apart before they'd had a chance to truly begin. Dawn broke over Wilmington, pale light filtering through the hospital windows. Michael hadn't moved from Marcus's bedside all night, his hand still gripping his son's. His back ached, his eyes burned with exhaustion, but he refused to leave. Around 6 in the morning, a nurse came to check Marcus's vitals. She studied the monitors with careful attention, then smiled slightly. His fever is coming down, she said. 101.2. That's the lowest it's been since he came to ICU. Hope surged through Michael's chest. That's good, right? That means the medication is working? It's a good sign, but we need to see sustained improvement. The nurse made notes on her tablet. Dr. Reeves and Dr. Morrison will be in soon for morning rounds. Michael texted the family group chat. Fever dropping. Small improvement. Responses came immediately. Everyone still awake despite the early hour. They'd taken turns sleeping in the waiting room, unwilling to go back to the hotel in case something changed. By 7 o'clock, both Dr. Reeves and Alana arrived. Alana looked exhausted. She'd clearly been up all night researching and reviewing protocols, but her eyes were sharp, focused, as she examined Marcus. Fever is down, blood pressure is stabilizing, liver enzymes are showing early signs of improvement, Alana said, reading the monitors. The combination therapy is working. He's responding. So he's going to be okay? Cassie asked from the doorway, where she'd been hovering anxiously. It's too early to say definitively, Dr. Reeves cautioned. But this is very encouraging. If his numbers continue improving over the next 24 hours, we'll be past the worst of the crisis. Michael felt tears of relief streaming down his face. Thank you. Thank you both. Alana met his eyes briefly, then looked away. I'm just doing my job. But Michael saw something in her expression. A flicker of connection, of recognition that this wasn't just a job. This was her brother, her family. Over the next 2 days, Marcus's condition steadily improved. His fever normalized, his organ function stabilized. On the 3rd day after the crisis began, Dr. Reeves removed the breathing tube. Marcus woke up confused and disoriented, but alive. "Dad?" His voice was raspy from the tube, but Michael had never heard a more beautiful sound. "I'm here, son. I'm right here." Marcus's eyes focused on Michael's face. "What happened? I remember feeling sick and then... nothing." "You had a complication. Graft versus host disease. Your body was rejecting the transplant, but the doctors fixed it. You're going to be okay." "How long was I out?" 3 days. The longest 3 days of my life." Marcus tried to smile but winced. "Everything hurts." "That's normal," Alana said, stepping into view. She checked his pupils with a small light, professional and efficient. "The immunosuppressants can cause muscle aches. It'll get better." Marcus stared at her, memory slowly returning. "Dr. Morrison, Dad told me? He said you're my sister?" Alana's professional mask slipped. She looked uncertain for the first time since Michael had met her. "Yes, I'm still processing that information myself, but yes, I'm your sister." "You saved my life," Marcus said. "Again. First with the transplant plan, now with this." "That's what big sisters do," Alana said, and something in her voice suggested she was trying on the role, seeing how it felt. Marcus's eyes filled with tears. "I always wanted a sister." Alana's composure cracked completely. She sat on the edge of the bed, carefully avoiding the medical equipment, and took Marcus's hand. "I always wanted a sibling too. I grew up an only child. This whole thing, finding out I have 6 brothers and sisters, it's overwhelming. But Marcus, you need to focus on getting better. Then we'll figure out what being siblings means." "Can you tell me about yourself?" Marcus asked. "I want to know everything." Over the next hour, as Marcus drifted in and out of consciousness, Alana talked. She told him about growing up in Wilmington, about her adoptive father Robert, who'd been nothing but wonderful, about medical school and her specialty in oncology. She told him about her marriage that had ended 2 years ago, about her love of running marathons, about her cat named Hippocrates. Marcus listened with rapt attention during his waking moments, soaking up every detail about the sister he'd just discovered. Michael watched from the corner, his heart full. His daughter and son getting to know each other. His family, slowly knitting itself together from broken pieces. 1 week later, Marcus was moved out of ICU and back to a regular room. His recovery was remarkable. The combination of youth, determination, and excellent medical care worked in his favor. The graft versus host disease was under control, and his body finally seemed to be accepting the transplant. Michael's other children visited daily, taking turns so Marcus wasn't overwhelmed. They brought games, movies, stories from their own lives. Slowly, carefully, they were becoming siblings. Alana came by every day too, ostensibly to check on Marcus's medical progress, but staying longer each time to just talk. She met Jeffrey, MJ, Jasmine, and the twins, her other siblings. The meetings were awkward at first, but the Jordan children were welcoming, eager to know their newfound sister. "You look like Dad," Jasmine observed one afternoon. "Especially your eyes. It's kind of freaky how much you have his eyes. I spent 39 years looking in the mirror and never knowing why I looked the way I did," Alana said. "Now I know. It's strange, understanding yourself differently." One evening, after Marcus had fallen asleep and the other siblings had left, Alana asked Michael to take a walk with her. They ended up at the hospital cafeteria, sitting across from each other with coffee neither was drinking. "I talked to my dad, Robert, about everything," Alana said. "He already knew. Mom told him years ago that you were my biological father. He said he was waiting for me to find out when I was ready." "How did he take you knowing?" "He was worried at first, scared he might lose me. But I told him that finding out about you doesn't change who he is to me. He raised me. He loved me. He's my father in every way that matters." Alana paused. "But you're my father too, biologically. And I think there's room for both truths." Michael felt something tight in his chest loosen. I'm not trying to replace him. I just want to know you, if you'll let me. I think I want that too, Alana said slowly. But it's going to take time. You can't just show up after 39 years and expect instant connection. That's not how relationships work. I know. I'm willing to take whatever time you need. Alana studied him over her coffee cup. Why basketball? What made you so obsessed with it that you gave up everything else? Michael considered the question. I wasn't just good at it, I was great at it. And when you're great at something, when you have a gift, people notice you. They value you. I grew up as just another kid in Wilmington. Basketball made me special. It gave me purpose, identity, a path forward. I didn't give up everything for basketball. Basketball gave me everything. Except your children, Alana said quietly. Except my children, Michael agreed. And that's my greatest regret. All the championships and money in the world can't make up for missing your childhoods. They sat in silence for a moment. Then, Alana said, Tell me about winning your last championship, the one in 1998. I was 18. I watched that game with Robert. We both love basketball. So Michael told her about the pressure, the flu game, the final shot against Utah. He told her about being at the peak of his powers, knowing it might be his last chance, giving everything he had. I watched you my whole life, Alana said when he finished. Watched you win, watched you retire, watched you come back. You were this larger-than-life figure. It's surreal that you're my father, that we share DNA. What were you doing when I was winning championships? Michael asked. What was your life like? Alana smiled, a genuine smile that reached her eyes. I was a nerdy kid who loved science. While you were dominating basketball, I was dissecting frogs in biology class and reading medical journals for fun. When you won in '91, I was in middle school trying to figure out why boys were suddenly interesting. When you won in '96, I was in college studying organic chemistry. You became a doctor, that's incredible. Mom pushed me toward medicine. She said helping people was the most important work anyone could do. I think she was right. Alana's expression grew thoughtful. Do you think Marcus will be able to coach again? Once he's fully recovered? The doctors think so. It'll take time, but yes. Good. He talks about those kids at the youth center all the time. He really cares about them. They talked for another hour, sharing stories, filling in 39 years of blanks. It wasn't instant connection, but it was a start. A foundation they could build on. 2 weeks later, Marcus was finally discharged from the hospital. His blood counts were strong, his organs were functioning normally, and the graft versus host disease was in remission. He still needed regular monitoring and medication, but he could go home. The entire family gathered for the discharge. Michael, Cassie, all 6 of Marcus's siblings, and even Robert Morrison, who came to meet Michael face to face. Thank you for raising her right, Michael said, shaking Robert's hand. Alana is an incredible person. You did that. Teresa and I both did that, Robert said. And apparently she got some good genes from you too. That stubbornness served her well in medical school. They stood together, 2 fathers of the same daughter, and found mutual respect in their shared love for her. When it was time for Marcus to leave, he was wheeled out in a wheelchair per hospital protocol. But at the hospital entrance, he stood on shaky legs and walked to the car himself, determined to leave on his own power. Where to? Cassie asked. Home? Marcus looked at Michael. Can we go to the tree first? Our tree? 20 minutes later, the entire extended family stood beneath the old oak tree by the Wilmington River. Marcus walked slowly to the trunk and traced the carved initials, MJ plus CB. Dad added to this, Marcus told everyone, showing them where Michael had carved MB. But it's not complete yet. He pulled out a pocket knife, the same one Cassie had used to carve the original initials all those years ago. With careful precision, Marcus added new letters. And AM, MJ, plus CB, Yashi, MB, and AM. Michael plus Cassie equals Marcus and Alana. The complete equation. What about us? MJ joked. Don't the rest of us get carved in? The tree's not big enough, Marcus said with a laugh. But you're all part of this family now. All of us. Alana stood slightly apart from the group, still learning how to be part of this assembled family. But Marcus reached out and pulled her closer, wrapping an arm around her shoulders. "My sister," he said proudly. "The one who saved my life. Twice." Alana hugged him back, careful of his still fragile body. "My brother. The one who gave me a family I didn't know I needed." Michael watched his children, all 7 of them, standing together beneath the tree where his own story had begun. Where he'd been comforted after being cut from the basketball team. Where he'd fallen in love with Cassie. Where promises had been made and broken and somehow, miraculously, redeemed. This wasn't the family he'd planned. It wasn't the story he would have written. But standing here, watching his children laugh and tease and begin to know each other, Michael understood something profound. The greatest victories weren't won on basketball courts. They were won in hospital rooms and difficult conversations, and the choice to show up, even when showing up was terrifying. They were won in forgiveness and second chances and the stubborn belief that families could be built from broken pieces. Michael had accomplished everything in his professional life, but this messy, complicated, beautiful family assembled from secrets and revelations. This was his masterpiece. The spring sun warmed the grounds of Michael Jordan's Charlotte estate. The sprawling lawn had been transformed for the occasion. White chairs arranged in neat rows, flower arrangements everywhere, a small arch decorated with roses and ivy overlooking the lake. Michael stood near the arch, adjusting his tie for the 3rd time. At 65, he'd faced down championship pressure, last-second shots, and billion-dollar business deals, but nothing made him as nervous as today. "Dad, you're fidgeting," Jasmine said, appearing at his elbow. "Stop. You look great." "I just want everything to be perfect," Michael said. "It already is perfect," she assured him. "Now stop worrying. They'll be here any minute." The guests had already arrived, a carefully curated mix of family and close friends. Michael's children sat in the front row, Jeffrey with his wife and 2 kids, MJ with his fiancée, Jasmine, and the twins Victoria and Isabel. Cassie sat with her parents, who had aged but remained strong, finally at peace with the choices made decades ago. Robert Morrison sat nearby, smiling warmly. Over the past 5 years, he and Michael had developed an unlikely friendship, bonded by their shared love for Alana. Music began to play, something classical and beautiful. The crowd stood and turned. Marcus appeared first, walking down the aisle with confident strides. He wore a sharp gray suit and carried himself like a man who'd beaten death and come out stronger. At 29, he was healthy, cancer-free for 5 years, and back to coaching full-time at the Wilmington Youth Center. The kids there called him Coach Marcus, and didn't care that his father was Michael Jordan. They cared that he showed up every day and believed in them. Marcus took his position at the arch, grinning at his father. "You ready for this, old man?" "Watch it," Michael said, but he was smiling. "I can still take you on the court?" "In your dreams," Marcus shot back, and they both laughed. Then everyone turned again as Alana appeared. She wore a simple ivory dress that reached her knees, elegant and understated. Her hair was down, falling in soft waves past her shoulders. She carried a small bouquet of wildflowers. Robert Morrison walked beside her, his arm linked through hers, his face radiating pride. Michael's breath caught. His daughter. 5 years ago, she hadn't known he existed. Now she was walking toward him, choosing to include him in one of the most important moments of her life. Alana and Robert reached the arch. Robert kissed his daughter's cheek, then shook hands with the man waiting there, a kind-faced surgeon named David Chen, whom Alana had met at a medical conference 3 years ago. But before taking David's hand, Alana turned to Michael. "Thank you for being here," she said softly. "Both my fathers, watching me get married. That's more than most people get." Michael hugged her carefully, fighting tears. "I wouldn't miss this for the world. I'm so proud of you, Alana." The ceremony was beautiful and brief. Alana and David exchanged vows they'd written themselves, promising partnership and support and love through whatever came. When the officiant pronounced them married, the crowd erupted in applause. During the reception, held in an elegant tent on the lawn, Michael found himself standing with all 7 of his children for a family photo. The photographer struggled to fit everyone in frame. "Closer together," she called. "Come on, squeeze in." They pressed together, laughing. Marcus put bunny ears behind MJ's head. Jasmine made a silly face. The twins struck matching poses. Jeffrey tried to look dignified while his toddler climbed on his shoulders. Alana, still in her wedding dress, stood between Michael and Marcus, linking arms with both her father and brother. "Say championship," the photographer called. "Championship," they all yelled, and the camera captured the moment. 7 siblings, 1 father, all connected by blood and stubbornness, and the choice to be family despite everything. Later, during dinner, Marcus stood to give a toast. He clinked his glass until the tent quieted. "5 years ago I was dying," he began bluntly. "I had cancer, I was losing hope, and I didn't know I had a father or any siblings. Then my mom wrote a letter and everything changed." He looked at Michael. "Dad, you saved my life. Literally gave me your bone marrow. But you gave me something more important than that. You gave me a family." He turned to Alana. "Big sis, I didn't know I needed a sister until I had one. You're brilliant and bossy, and you never let me give up, not during cancer and not after. I love you, and David is lucky to have you." He raised his glass. "To the bride and groom, may your marriage be half as complicated as our family tree." Everyone laughed and drank. Then Alana stood, tears already streaming. "I'm supposed to keep this short, but I have things to say." She looked at Robert. "Dad Morrison, you raised me. You taught me to ride a bike, helped me through medical school, and showed me what a good man looks like. You're my father, and nothing will ever change that." She turned to Michael. "And Dad Jordan, yes, I'm calling you that now, get used to it. You showed up when it mattered. You risked your life to save Marcus. You gave me time to process and figure out who I was. You never pushed, never demanded, just waited until I was ready. These past 5 years, getting to know you, learning about my siblings, becoming part of this crazy family, it's been the best gift." Her voice broke. "I spent 39 years not knowing where I came from. Now I know. I'm the daughter of 2 good men, the sister of 6 amazing people. Part of a family that shouldn't exist but does, because sometimes broken things can be put back together in ways that make them stronger." She raised her glass. "To family, the one we're born into and the one we choose. To second chances. To showing up. To love that survives secrets and time and everything else life throws at it." The tent erupted in applause and tears. Michael found himself surrounded by his children, all of them hugging him at once. Somewhere in the crowd, Cassie was crying happy tears. Robert Morrison smiled and nodded at Michael. 2 fathers acknowledging the shared miracle of Alana. As the reception continued, Michael slipped away to the lakeshore, needing a moment alone. He stood watching the sun set over the water, painting the sky orange and pink, the same colors as that October evening 45 years ago when he and Cassie had sat under the oak tree and carved their initials. Footsteps approached. Cassie appeared beside him, older now, but still beautiful, still carrying echoes of the girl who'd believed in him when no one else did. "Quite a day," she said. "Quite a 5 years," Michael countered. They stood in comfortable silence, watching the sunset together. "Do you ever think about what would have happened if I'd told you about Marcus back then?" Cassie asked. "If Teresa had told you about Alana? How different would our lives be?" Michael considered. "I think about it sometimes. Maybe I wouldn't have gone to UNC. Maybe I wouldn't have played in the NBA. Maybe I'd have stayed in Wilmington, married you, raised Marcus and Alana together. Maybe I'd have been a coach or a teacher or worked at the shipyard like your father wanted. Would you have been happy?" "I don't know," Michael admitted. "Maybe, maybe not. 18-year-old me was so hungry for greatness, so desperate to prove myself. I might have resented being tied down. I might have made everyone miserable." He turned to face her. "But 55-year-old me? The me who got your letter? That guy understands what really matters. That guy was ready to be a father, even to grown children. Maybe everything happened exactly when it was supposed to happen." "Even the cancer?" Cassie asked quietly. "Even that. Marcus got sick, and it brought us all together. Alana found out the truth. The family assembled. It's terrible that it took something so awful, but maybe that's the only way it could have happened. Maybe we weren't ready before. Cassie leaned her head on his shoulder. We did okay, didn't we? Despite everything, despite all the mistakes and secrets and pain. We raised two incredible kids. We did, Michael agreed. They're the best parts of us. Marcus has your kindness and my determination. Ilana has your strength and my stubbornness. They're both better than we deserve. Michael Jordan admitting he doesn't deserve something? Cassie teased. That's growth. He laughed. 5 years of therapy will do that. Did I tell you my therapist says I have abandonment issues rooted in childhood achievement pressure? Sounds expensive. Very, but worth it. Michael squeezed her shoulder. I'm learning to be present. To be the father I should have been all along. Better late than never, right? Better late than never, Cassie agreed. They walked back to the reception together, where music was playing and people were dancing. Marcus had pulled Alana onto the dance floor despite her protests, spinning her around while David watched with amusement. Jeffrey danced with his daughter. The twins had somehow convinced Robert Morrison to dance with them, one on each side. MJ approached Michael with a grin. Dad, I've got news. Andrea's pregnant. You're going to be a grandfather again. Michael hugged his son fiercely. That's wonderful. When's she due? 6 months. And Dad? We want to name him Marcus if it's a boy, after my brother. Is that weird? Michael looked across the dance floor at Marcus, who was now teaching Alana's new husband some terrible dance move that involved way too much hip action. It's perfect, Michael said. Marcus would be honored, though now we'll have 3 Marcuses in the family. This is going to get confusing. As the party continued into the evening, Michael found himself pulled onto the dance floor by Jasmine and the twins. They made him do embarrassing dad dances while everyone laughed and took videos. He didn't care. Let them laugh. Let them take videos. These were his children, and he was present for every moment. Later, as guests began to leave, Alana approached Michael. She'd changed from her wedding dress into a simple sundress, ready to leave for her honeymoon. Thank you for today, she said. For everything. For the wedding, for welcoming David into the family, for being here. Thank you for letting me be here, Michael said. For giving me a chance to be your father even though I'm late. Alana hugged him tight. You're not late. You're right on time. This is exactly when we were supposed to find each other. She pulled back and looked him in the eye. I love you, Dad. I know I don't say it enough, but I do. You're a pain sometimes, and way too competitive about everything. But you're my father and I love you. Michael's eyes filled with tears for the 100th time that day. I love you too, Alana. So much. I'm so proud of the woman you've become. As Alana and David left for their honeymoon, everyone gathered outside to wave goodbye. The Jordan family stood together, Michael in the center, surrounded by his 7 children and their various partners and kids. Can you believe this? Marcus said, looking around. 5 years ago, it was just me and Mom. Now look at us. We're like our own basketball team. More like our own basketball league, MJ joked. With all the kids, we've got enough for multiple teams. Family League, Jeffrey said. Jordan Family Basketball League, JFBL. That's a terrible acronym, Jasmine said. You're a terrible acronym, Jeffrey shot back, and they all laughed. Michael watched his children banter and tease, watched them interact like they'd known each other their entire lives instead of just 5 years. This was what he'd been missing. This was what championships and wealth couldn't buy. The simple joy of family, of connection, of belonging. His phone buzzed, a text from Alana. Already missing the chaos. See you in 2 weeks. Love you. Dad. Michael typed back. Have a wonderful honeymoon. Love you too. As the evening wound down and people drifted toward their cars, Marcus pulled Michael aside. Hey, so I've been thinking, Marcus said. Next month is the 5-year anniversary of when Mom sent you that letter. The letter that started all this. I think we should do something to mark it. All of us. The whole family. What did you have in mind? A trip back to Wilmington. All of us standing under that oak tree where it all began. taking a new family photo to add to the carving, showing the next generation where their family story really started. Marcus smiled. "What do you think?" Michael pulled his son into a hug. "I think that's perfect. Absolutely perfect." 1 month later, the Jordan family, all 7 siblings, their partners, their children, Cassie, Robert Morrison, and assorted grandparents, descended on Wilmington like a friendly invasion. They took over a local hotel, filled up restaurants, and generally brought chaos wherever they went. On a bright Saturday morning, they all gathered at the oak tree by the Wilmington River. The tree had grown thicker in 5 years, the carved initials stretched and weathered but still visible. A professional photographer set up her equipment while the family arranged themselves around the tree. The kids played by the river under watchful eyes. The adults reminisced about the past 5 years, the hospital stays, the recovery, the awkward first meetings, the gradual knitting together of a family from scattered pieces. "Okay, everyone gather around the tree," the photographer called. "Biggest group photo I've ever taken. This might require multiple shots." They crowded together, 3 generations of Jordans and those who'd married into the family. Michael stood at the center with Cassie on one side and Robert Morrison on the other, the 3 adults who'd shaped this family in different ways. Around them stood the 7 siblings with their various partners. In front, sitting on the ground, were 6 grandchildren and counting. "This is ridiculous," MJ said, trying to wrangle his toddler. "We're ridiculous." "Ridiculously awesome," Marcus countered, and they all laughed. The photographer took dozens of photos, serious ones, silly ones, candids of the family just being themselves. Then, she stepped back and smiled. "You know, I've photographed a lot of families, but I've never seen one quite like yours. You can tell there's real love here. Real connection." After the photos, Marcus took a hammer and a small bronze plaque he'd had made. With his siblings helping, he affixed it to the tree just below the carved initials. The plaque read, "Here began a love story that created a family. MJ plus CB, MB and AM, plus JJ plus MJ Jr., plus JMJ, plus VJ, plus YJ, and all who came after. Where broken things were made whole, where secrets became truths, where late was right on time." Michael stood back and looked at it, his throat tight with emotion. From that carved MJ plus CB had come all of this. 7 children, 6 grandchildren and counting, a family assembled from secrets and bone marrow and stubborn determination. "Not bad for a kid who got cut from his high school basketball team," Cassie said, appearing beside him. Michael laughed through his tears. "Not bad at all." As the family packed up to leave, Marcus and Alana stood together by the tree, taking one last look. "You know what's crazy?" Marcus said. 5 years ago, I thought my life was ending. I was sick, alone, scared. I had no idea that everything was actually just beginning." "Same," Alana said. 5 years ago, I thought I knew who I was. I was Dr. Morrison, daughter of Robert and Teresa, married to my career. I had no idea I was missing an entire family." They looked at each other, brother and sister, connected by biology and circumstance and choice. "I'm glad Mom wrote that letter," Marcus said. "I'm glad everything happened exactly the way it did. Even the cancer? Even that. Because it brought us Dad. It brought us each other. It gave us this family." Marcus gestured at the chaos of Jordans loading into cars. Kids running around, adults calling out reminders about dinner plans. "All of this. How can I regret anything that led to this?" Alana hugged her brother. "You're very wise for a 29-year-old. "I learned from the best," Marcus said. "My big sister, the brilliant doctor." As they walked back to join the family, Michael watched them go. His firstborn children, born 3 months apart to different mothers, raised in secrecy, brought together by tragedy, and now walking side by side like they'd never been apart. This was his legacy. Not the championships or the shoes or the fame. This family. These connections. These people who chose to love each other despite everything. Michael Jordan had returned to his high school love after 25 years. What she told him had left him frozen, but only for a moment. Then he'd done what he'd always done. He'd shown up, worked hard, and refused to quit until he won. And this time, winning meant something more than trophies. It meant family. It meant love. It meant second chances that became first priorities. It meant coming home. Thanks for watching this incredible story of love, family, and second chances. We want to know, where are you watching this from? Drop your country or city in the comments below. If this story touched your heart, please hit that like button and subscribe to our channel. By subscribing, you're helping us spread kindness and inspiring stories to people all around the world who need to hear them. And don't go anywhere yet. Click on the video appearing on your screen right now for another amazing story that will move you. See you in the next one.